Councilmember Kirk, Councilmember Paulson, Councilmember Seeley, Councilmember Speth. Who are we missing?
Christina is not here.
Oh, that's right. Christina said she would be. So she's excused. So we didn't expect her to be here tonight. So 4 of our council members are here. Let's go ahead and get started. So we start with the Pledge of Allegiance. And does somebody have a flag? Ryan, do you have a flag in your office?
I don't, but I could pull.
I have one in the closet.
All right. Because I don't have one here, and we do have one at the office. And then after the Pledge of Allegiance, if someone would like to offer a prayer or thought for this evening, raise your hand electronically. We'll recognize that person, and then we'll allow the pledge or thought for this evening to go forward, and then we'll step into our council agenda for tonight.
I have one, but I don't think this will work. This flew over the Washington D.C. The national capital, and I don't know if I want to bust it out of it. I can take it out and unfold it, but I want to refold it. But there it is.
So we can still recite the Pledge of Allegiance. There isn't a flag we can stand by, but there's no reason why we can't recite it. So let's go ahead with the Pledge of Allegiance, and I'll lead the council and our audience. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with justice for all. Okay. Anybody have a thought for this evening or prayer they'd like to offer?
I would. I'll offer a prayer.
Okay, Carrie.
Our eternal Father in heaven, we bow our heads in humility and express gratitude for the beautiful lives that we live. We're grateful to live in the city of Providence and for the blessings that we enjoy. We are grateful for the peace and the beauty that are part of our lives. We're grateful to be on this council. We pray that thou will bless us with clear minds. Please help us to make decisions that will be in the interest of the people of Providence. Please help us to be kind and be good listeners. We pray that thou will bless us with thy spirit and guide and direct us in the things that we do. And we offer this prayer in the name of our Savior, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Carrie. Okay, let's go forward. Our first agenda item is staff reports. We have Max on, our city engineer. We have Scarlett, Ryan Snow, our city manager. I don't know if we have our city attorney on or not. But Scarlett, can you, let's go ahead and start with Rob and his report on Public Works.
Hello, can you hear me?
Can hear you fine, Rob.
Hello, Council. Public Works has had a lot of projects that we're working on or towards. Street preservation is the big one that the Streets Department is frantically trying to get all the loose ends done when it comes to prepping our asphalt for those preventative surface treatments that are about to begin. Street preservation maintenance will begin at the end of July, starting with crack and joint sealing. August 3rd through the 9th, we have multiple days scheduled for some 24-hour road closures, which will be, done for the HA5 treatments. Chip and seal, they've been scheduled for August 10th. They're kind of leaving that a little bit tentative as far as trying to give themselves a little bit of leeway when it comes to rescheduling, since they seem to be having a lot of delay problems lately. Spring Creek Parkway, both crossings are underway to some degree. The west crossing's begun with Shane Geary with Cache Valley Excavation. That's begun with progress that we're overseeing. the east crossing near Vineyard. They've got a lot of materials delivered on site, the box culvert in particular, and the crew has yet to mobilize there though. Our water system has a new SCADA upgrade that's completed. There's a couple of fine tuning things to meet my needs, but we can now see data records and trending at the Blacksmith Fork pump and the Alder well, along with different power monitoring aspects for all the sites that have any form of a large pump and motor. That's the bulk of what I have to say. If you've got any questions, there's a lot going on, so feel free to throw something at me and I'll see if I can answer it.
Questions for Rob? Carrie? Josh?
I have a,
Janelle?
yeah, can you hear me?
I can.
Yes.
Okay. I just wondered, as the Spring Creek Parkway gets fully connected, will there be adjustments to the speed control as it goes through? Because I know the signs were placed before, you know, as it was completed in pieces. If it's going to have like a more continuous evaluation of how it flows
It most definitely
through the
will.
neighborhoods.
Yeah, we've got 4 of those radar speed signs that do traffic counts and such. We keep them going, all 4, all the time, and that is an area that I foresee a lot of residents are going to have concerns, kind of like what we've recently seen up on Hollows Phase 1. But we can and will and monitor all the situations when it comes to the school in particular. There might be some things that we need to look closer at. Along with those residential neighborhoods that are now going to have connectivity all the way through for that nice thoroughfare to move traffic on through. So we'll definitely keep our close eyes on that situation.
Okay. I sent a question to Deputy Carly, who's a star
Thanks, Rob.
deputy.
You bet.
I sent a question to our star deputy, Deputy Carly, and he said they are going to put their traffic counting devices also on Spring Creek Parkway as well to see when most of the volume of traffic occurs. He also commented on the number of citations and warnings issued. I can forward that.
I met
So
with him.
they want to look at the volume of traffic so they can determine whether or not there's a certain period of time where they ought to have their special patrols operating. Okay. Brent, any questions for Rob?
I was just wondering on chip and seal. I observed what Logan was doing, and it seems like they gather up their chips. Can you reuse chips once that the excess that have been laid down? Can they be reused and put back to use in the same season, or is that not a possibility?
No, well, you'd have to truck
to
them
do?
to have them washed for them to use them for their warranty type issues. They are very, very dirty once they've been swept up. And so we'd have to truck them and wash them and truck them again. And feasibly, that doesn't make sense because you end up with a lot of other debris as well, other than just the dirty factor of the chips. And so feasibly, it doesn't make sense. We're actually going to try something new this year that Cache Valley hasn't used much of yet. Ryan, he can talk to it if you'd like, but it's a Utilite, which is kind of more of a ceramic chip. And there's a lot of people that have tried it. I did a lot of research before we went ahead and pushed that direction to give that a try this year. I'm optimistic that we're going to be happy with the results of the new style chip. Logan uses a slag. It's got pros and cons. Unfortunately, personally, some of those cons for myself, we want to avoid, and that's kind of a long discussion, but we might try slag at some point like Logan does, but we're going to try a Utilite chip, and I think we'll be pleased with those results. I'm optimistically hopeful.
Okay, thank you.
You bet.
Rob, I've got a question. when I talked to you, I don't know, 2, 3 weeks ago, there are a couple streets that you were talking about. One was roto milling, the other was a rebuild, and the other was what do you call it? It's like you did on, it's like Jason did on Second East.
Thin overlay.
That's a patch and overlay.
Right.
One of them was on Second North, the other was First East by the elementary school.
Yeah, I can quickly touch on
Sure,
that.
is that gonna happen?
I had Parsons give me quotes for different types of possible rebuild scenarios, and we went around and looked them over, and there was 4 stretches of street that we looked over, and he got me some price estimates on different methods on trying to repair some of those really damaged roads that aren't candidates for preservation treatments. This year, there's a few sections of road that are very iffy as to whether or not we're going to actually be able to do the preventative treatments as planned for various reasons, construction being the big one. But so I'm anticipating that there might be a surplus, I guess is one way to put it, related to that line item's budget abilities. And once we get done with these preservation treatments, we'll see what remains and look really hard at maybe trying to accomplish 1 or 2 of those blocks that I had estimates done on with this current year's budget.
Good. Good. Council member X favorite project is the First East by the elementary school. That's her.
I did have that one looked into. And
Right. So that may happen this year,
it possibly could.
possibly. Okay, got it. Okay, any more questions for Rob? Hearing none, let's go on to Scarlett.
Hello, everyone. In land use, we are busy. We've got several concept plans in-house that we're getting ready to move forward to the Planning Commission. The Planning Commission's not too busy right now because they're still on concept plan phase, but more development going up in the Little Baldy area, a couple of small developments. The Ficus property is coming in with a concept plan. That's the property that's on the corner of 300 South and Highway 165, the southwest quarter. So we are busy in the land use side of things. April's been busy with code enforcement. There's quite a bit of building going on. We've not really slowed down. That's one area that COVID didn't seem to impact, at least in Providence City. Those contractors have been keeping their crews busy, and so she's been quite busy with residential and stormwater enforcement on zoning. She's also following up on weed complaints and nuisance complaints. So it's a busy time. Some of you may have noticed that the grass on the east side of the building is not as green as we'd like it to be. We've talked with the property maintenance people for the development. Our people aren't doing it. We're part of a homeowner or a business owners association here, and they're working to get that resolved. Rob and Shane actually have resulted to hand watering for a little bit until they can figure out what's gone wrong with the sprinkler system. But we are aware of it, and we are working on it to try and get us back to green grass on the east side again. The recreation, we are having pickleball, and the one that pickleball classes, and the class that really took off was the adult pickleball. I don't know if we would have, we had 8. The instructor asked us to cap it at 8, and so we capped it at 8 people, but it took a minute for people to decide, and then when they did, it was like wham. And so we've got pickleball classes. We have an adult class Tuesday and Thursday evenings at 7 p.m. And then we've got youth and we combined, we only had a couple of kids under the age of 12, and they were of the ability that they're just going to be with the youth class. So then we've got a youth class at 10 a.m. on Tuesdays and Thursdays. So our recreation program is moving along. We didn't have enough interest in tennis, so we're not going to have those classes this year, but we are going to see how the fun pickleball goes. And last but not least, it's the new budget year. We started in with that. I want to say thank you personally and on behalf of the whole staff for the budget that you approved for salaries, wages, and benefits. Those changes, those market adjustments and cost of living changes went into effect, and thank you very much. It's very appreciated. So thank you, council. And that's pretty much all I have. And oh, I think Carrie, you'll probably report since Christina's not here, but our celebration committee, that's a great committee that Christina and Carrie have got going on. And I just want to publicly thank those people for the time and effort they're putting into something that's kind of hard sometimes if you're putting effort into something and you don't know if it's going to happen, because it's a big challenge when you know it's going to happen. But bless their souls, they are sticking with it and they've got some great ideas. So shout out to the people on that committee and to Christina and Carrie for their work on that. And that's all I have.
Council, any questions for Scarlett? Brent? Josh? Janelle? Carrie? Okay. So Scarlett, I talked to Christina and talked to Kathleen Alder, and their concern is that, well, the question was, do we market this just to Providence people or to everybody in Cache Valley? And I just said, I think everybody in Cache Valley. And their concern was that too many people would show up. So I said, well, gee, if too many people show up and there's a line, then that's pretty successful. And that tells us we ought to do more of the same next year. So I encourage them to reach beyond just Providence residents.
Well, I think that the council needs to have a discussion, because if the council's not on board with having a city celebration, then we need to reconsider the planning that we're doing. So there needs to be a temperature check with council members on the city celebration tonight.
So you're saying there ought to be the decision whether we actually have it or not the character of it.
Yeah,
I'd agree with Councilman Kirk on that. I think we at least ought to do a
there
temperature
needs to
check.
be some discussion from the council, because it's my opinion and Christina's that we want to hold on to hope, that we want the citizens of Providence to have something to look forward to. But if the rest of the council isn't feeling that way or is more concerned, then we need to reconsider planning, as every other city pretty much has given up their city celebration for the year. We don't want to be that. We don't want to do that, but it needs to be a discussion.
Any other cities,
Move forward.
any other city celebrations, November timeframe that we're having or later in the year? Or are they all more earlier and have been canceled?
Well, the Cache Rodeo is still plans to go, and the fair.
And the
And
county
so those
fair.
have not been canceled. The two Cache County events.
Right.
But everything through July, except those, pretty much have been canceled.
Okay, any other cities that,
Not that I'm aware of. I don't follow it all, but all the summer ones that I'm aware of have been canceled.
Okay.
Even ones that are deeply, deeply rooted in tradition.
I think it'd be helpful to find out about any other city celebrations that are later in the year. Maybe they haven't canceled theirs, or maybe they're,
Well, they're probably like us, just still, trying to
Let's see.
decide, or haven't made it official. But I think we can make a decision independent of other cities, because most city celebrations are typically during the summer. I think we
Okay.
should look at how the other members of this council are feeling about it.
Carrie,
Go ahead.
sorry, Mayor. I know I've spoken with River Heights. They are planning to have their celebration, but they've spread it out over the course of the week to try and get people who are interested in each piece to kind of spread out. I don't know if we can have that as a backup option for our celebration, but if we need to spread things out farther apart throughout the week instead of all just on the weekend, if that's an option. They'd have to probably be even school in session. Would you want to have a plan B that way, that we spread it out more? That's my
Well,
idea.
and you know, if the concern is the crowd number, because really in order to stay within the state guidelines, the crowd needs to stay under 500. We probably should really focus on getting Providence residents there, and then next year focus more on the rest of the county would be my thoughts. Because we don't want to be that city that, you know, has the event that you know, causes a big publicity mess or something like that. You know, we just want to be somewhat mindful of the restrictions that the governor has given, and
Whatever they might be in September.
or whatever they might be in September. Yeah, because it might be different. It could go either direction too. It's not necessarily going to be green in September.
And we might end up in the newspaper again.
Yeah, and hopefully in a good light, but
Yes. Okay. Any more questions of Scarlett? Oh, hearing none, let's move on. Max, do you have a report for us tonight? Max,
No, I
our
don't
city
have
engineer?
anything.
You don't? Okay. All right, we'll move on to Ryan. Ryan, would you give us your report?
Sure. Some of you probably have seen our Facebook. We have a survey out just kind of getting ideas for playground equipment and kind of understanding the public's interest on some of those as we look. One of the first ones we're looking at is Ollinger Park. We've talked about that and had it in the budget year. We're trying to get on that early and quick, but we want to get a general idea of what people want in parks and playgrounds as we move forward. So we have that survey out. I did have the city celebration, but I won't continue on that. I knew Christina wasn't here, so I was gonna. I am preparing and working on preparing the master plan RFQ. So we've already done the engineering for 100 South. We've done the park, trail, and recreation master plan. The next one will be the sewer master plan. And so we have a lot of those coming. There's a lot going into each one of those as we go into each phase of that. And we also have our audit RFQ out right now, and we're taking responses and that for our audit RFQ. So anyway, a lot of the other things I have on my report will come as items on the agenda, or at least discussion points on the agenda. So that is what I have, and would happy to take questions from any of the council or mayor, whatever you have for me.
Okay. Questions for Ryan? No, hearing none. Let's move on. Is Chad, our city attorney, on with us, Ryan?
You know, he said he wasn't going to be unless we needed to call him to connect. He had some other conflict, but we could get him if we needed him. He would be available. But
Okay, got it. Okay. Any questions for Ryan? If not, we'll move on to approval of the minutes. Okay, hearing no further questions. Let's go on to the minutes, approval of the minutes of June 17th, 2020. I need a motion from the council to approve the minutes. Councilman,
Mayor, I'll make a motion to approve the minutes from the
Motion-
June 17th,
motion from
2020
Council-
meeting.
got it. Motion from Councilwoman Seeley. Do I have a second?
Second from Councilman Paulson.
Second from Councilman Paulson. Okay, discussion, comments, corrections, errors. I didn't find any when I read through it. I also noted it's what is it, 4 pages to the 6 pages?
It was a long meeting.
Well, previously long meetings probably would have been more like 12 pages. Josh,
Oh, but yeah, four pages is fine. I mean, it was several hours. I think
6
the meeting
pages,
before that was, yeah.
yeah, Matt, we covered a lot of ground. We got out at 10:30. All right, hearing no corrections, all in favor of approving the minutes of June 17th, 2020, signify by saying aye.
I,
I hear, but Brent, did you say aye?
I did.
Okay, unanimous. Okay, let's move forward. All right. So we have public comments portion. This is separate from the public hearing. So we'll do the public comment portion first. And let me go ahead and read the introduction here. Citizens may express their views to City Council on issues within the city's jurisdiction. Public comments may be sent to Providence City, Utah @gmail.com or text comments to 435-752-9441. City Council may act on an item if it arose subsequent to the posting of this agenda and the City Council determines that an emergency exists. This is also not the public hearing, which is comments on the COG road fund application. So we'll entertain any public comments. Scarlett, do we have anything submitted, text messages, email messages?
We do have one email message, but it's more appropriate to wait and have it as part of discussion number 4. It was kind of a long one, so I emailed it to everyone a little bit ago. Other than that, I've checked. Ryan might have some in the chat, but I don't have any text or any emails
Got it.
other than the one we'll talk about later.
All right.
I don't have any in the chat. I had one person that had their hand raised, but I was just seeing if it was due to, it doesn't look like they've kept it up. So I was just checking to see if they had it for this. Doesn't look like they do. So anyway, that's what I have. There's no comments on this side.
Okay. Yeah, you had somebody that, okay, got it. Okay, all right. Hearing no interest in public comments, let's move on to the public hearing. Persons wishing to comment on public hearing items also may email or text. Email to Providence City, Utah @gmail.com or text to 435-752-9441. We have one item under public hearing, and that's to consider application for the 2020 COG road funds. Prior to submitting an application for COG road funds for design and engineering services for street improvements for 100 South between 200 West and 400 West, City Council is holding a public hearing. Purpose of the public hearing is to provide an opportunity for anyone interested to comment on the proposed application before action is taken. The final decision on the COG road funds is made by the county council, and what they're considering is what the COG committee, which is all of the mayors, have recommended to them, what they've asked all of the cities to do that have submitted an application for COG funds, to hold a public hearing, to solicit comments, and when we submit our application, to submit evidence that we've held a public hearing, and also include the public comments that were received. So previous to this year, It was not required this year. Any city and all cities in Cache Valley who are considering an application for COG road funds have to hold a public hearing. So on that note, Scarlett, do we have any comments on the COG application, either text or by email?
We do not. However, I would like to clarify one thing. Design and engineering services aren't eligible for COG funding. So it's just the street improvements that we will be, Ryan can correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm quite sure that design and engineering aren't eligible for the COG funding. It's just the street improvements that we would be applying for. Is that correct, Ryan?
That is correct. That is correct. And at this point, our city engineer is on for this topic. This is why he's primarily here, is to be able to talk about that and present, whether you want that presented before you open up for public comment or whether you want to do that in the administrative item. That's up to you, Mayor. But he is here to present if you have things or questions that he could help answer as well.
Okay, do you have any comments on the chat room?
I don't at this point.
Okay, so we can move on since we don't have any public comments for the public hearing. So hearing no comments for the public hearing, we'll close the public hearing and we will move on to the administrative agenda items. As Ryan pointed out, we have Max here to talk about the COG application. That is business item number 1, application for COG road funds. Providence City Council will consider the public hearing comments regarding the application for COG road funds 2020 and may make a decision to proceed with the application. Max is here to talk about the project. And Max, if you want to go ahead and introduce this for the council.
Okay, absolutely. Thank you, Mayor. So the project, many of you probably are familiar with it. Ryan, thank you for bringing that up. I was just going to ask you to do that. So we've got an exhibit that we've created to try to show an overview of this. And before I go too far into describing this, one thing, just so I don't forget, Ryan, on the very west end, on the north side of the road, there is a extra driveway, right there, going into the Mark and Gina Thompson parcel. We show a driveway going in there, and there would only be 2 driveways into that property. We've shown 3, so that is incorrect. And I just want to point that out for the record. That westernmost driveway will not be constructed. But as you can see, the project is meant to improve and widen that section of 100 South that goes from 2nd West down to the current 100 South that is currently constructed to full width, which is located where the townhomes are being constructed right now. So this exhibit, is pretty simple, but it's meant to be that way. Just kind of keep it simple and show, how the curb and gutter and sidewalk would look. And you can zoom in a little bit closer if you want, Ryan, to kind of show them. And we can maybe just pan along it and show them, starting at that west end is fine. So the big green bold lines would be the right of way. You can see the yellow lines that are in there represent the curb and gutter that would go in. And then on the north side, you notice there's a line type with an SD in it that would represent the future storm drain and irrigation line that would go in that North Park strip. And that'll convey water through the project for both irrigation and stormwater runoff.
So that Max, so that irrigation canal will be buried?
It will be, yes.
Okay.
Yes, that's correct.
Good.
Yep. The other thing about the project is the the road, you may know that the road was recently double chip sealed. Prior to that, it was gravel. All of that material will be removed and obviously new asphalt placed. We will do our very best to, and we're into this design phase right now where we're making sure that we're matching as close as we possibly can and still keep a reasonable slope on the road. We're trying to match people's driveways and yards and things like that as much as we possibly can to minimize disturbance on their property. And that's really where we're at in the design phase right now, is trying to get the vertical design of the roadway laid out so that it minimizes impact to the property owners. We're also just finishing up the right-of-way documents. We'll be delivering those here soon to the city so that they can be reviewed by the city, and so that portion's just about done. The other thing that we're doing, we finished all of the field work. There may be a little bit more survey. We've got to get in some very specific areas, but for the most part, we finished all of the field work and surveying that we needed to do. Rob and I have talked, one of the priorities that we've got to get, you know, on or kind of moving a little more with Rocky Mountain Power is the power lines that are on the south side of the road. We need to get a meeting with Rocky Mountain Power out there so that we can, there's quite a bit of lead time with their design and, you know, what requirements they're going to have on moving that power line. So we need to get that going pretty soon. You may or may not be aware of this project. Has to be turned into COG. If you're going to turn it into COG for funding, it has to be turned in by August 13th. But something I always like to do, I like to meet with Jim Gass, who works for CMPO. I like to meet with him and make sure that he agrees that what we're doing is in fact meeting the requirements of the application. So I will want to do that about a week in advance. So we're pushing to get the plans 90% complete to have that meeting with Jim Gass. Trying to think what else that we would need to go over. I guess at this point, maybe just turn it over for questions. Anything that you may have that you're wondering about the project, I hopefully can answer whatever questions you may have.
Okay. Questions, Josh? Okay, Gary? Janelle, where'd you go? Brent, any questions?
I just had a wonder if, has this been shown to the residents along the street, or is this just strictly what you have come up with at this time?
We have not shown this to the residents. This meeting, I thought, was supposed to kind of help get that out to the residents. We certainly can have a meeting with the residents, but no, Brent, to this point, this drawing is something we just completed today, has not been shown to the residents.
Does it have any merit to, I don't know how to go about this. Well, I recognize we've got the deadline of August 13th. I don't know how much we want to get them involved with it. I just was curious on this, that other driveway Mark and Gina's, is that just not used that much? Is that why you're eliminating it?
They're actually, what that was, that driveway was created when the road was blocked off. That driveway was created to be able to get into Mark's parcel from both sides of the road blockage, or the road closed section. So yeah, I don't believe it's needed anymore. And I don't actually think that by code, I don't think we can have 3 accesses into one parcel either. I believe that's the case. Is that, Scarlett, maybe you can help me with that, but I think that's the case.
That's correct. We do have a driveway restriction in our city code now.
Well, I just, I don't know if does it have any merit to let the citizens see it as they could come to your office and talk to you about it if they're interested, or we just move on? What's the council feel?
I think that they should be given a chance to look at it. Public engagement was a big piece of the RFP that we discussed. So I know that they would probably appreciate it, but hopefully it wouldn't cause too much delay for the COG funding.
Well, we have a deadline that we have to meet, but let me add some comments. I went back, and this is an exercise for the county council. We had 14 pages of public comments from residents on that street. And when I look at the names there's only 2 names that I look at that were not present when we had a conversation about this project and saw the trajectory that we're looking at right here. It didn't have all of the dash lines that Max shows here. The only 2 people I know were not there was Jeff Gibson and then Kay Holman. But I do know, if I'm not mistaken, that Kay Holman weighed in on this, probably talked to Scarlett about that. But all of the others publicly commented on this project. So they've all seen all of this. And certainly Max can review it with them. But the public engagement part happened in spades, and I made sure that we did our best to get everybody on that street involved and allowed their input to be considered.
And Mayor, just one comment to add to that. Max said he was going to finish the right-of-way agreements. A good opportunity for us is to have somebody from the city, and maybe Max included, be able to take that diagram out, help them as we want them to be able to see that and know how it'll affect their property for that additional 8-foot right of way, or 8
Right.
foot on both sides, or 16 on one. And so we definitely want to have the public, understanding what we're doing in the stages we're doing it. So at this point, though, we didn't have much to show them up to this stage, so we wanted to have something there. But Max, I don't think you'd be opposed if somebody stopped by your office to be able to see it if a resident wanted to stop by. I assume that's okay with you.
Absolutely.
so.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. That would be fine. And I agree with you, Ryan, that while we're talking to them, it would make a lot of sense to have the right-of-way documents complete so they can see that impact to the property as well. So yeah, we will have those with just in a few days. So.
And to that same thing, Mayor and Council, and really residents, if they have it on that street, we'll have a copy here. We'll keep communication with Max. And if they want to come here and meet with Rob or I, we'd be happy to meet with any of them and help them. We want to make sure this is a good experience to a good end for them.
I think that's good. I feel like that it doesn't have to be a showstopper. It doesn't have to be a confrontation. It's just keeping a working relationship with those people that are affected along that street, even though they may not totally agree and they may be somewhat argumentative about it. We're moving forward. We're keeping informed. That's all I'm thinking.
Okay. All right. So this is not a resolution. We do, as Josh likes to say, take the temperature of the council. Just can we get an indication that the council is in favor of moving forward on this? Just say aye, let me know. I got a thumbs up from Carrie. Josh has got a
That's
finger up. Josh has got 2 fingers.
Peace sign.
Janelle,
I'm fine.
okay. And
Can you
Brent,
see me?
I can see you. I think there's a delay in your video. I mean, there's some, well, let me just be blunt and say you probably need fiber up on Center Street.
Just get Kai out there to take care of it.
If Kai
I'm
hasn't.
just, except for that I'm at Bear Lake right now, so.
Oh, okay, fine. You got, yeah, Rich County will be near the end of the project on that one. All right.
I'm sure. I'm
And,
sure.
okay, and Brent, you had your thumb up, right? Okay, very good. All right, so we got to go on that, Max. So we're good news on that, and I think if you don't have any other further input for the council at this council meeting, Max, you can head back to head back home.
Okay, thank you so much. Appreciate it.
All right, hey, thanks, Max. Have a good evening.
Okay, thanks.
Okay. All right, we'll move on to item number 2. It's a discussion on green waste. Providence City Council will discuss a recommendation given to the County Council by the Solid Waste Advisory Board for green waste. I attended the County Council meeting when this was discussed. It was on their agenda for a vote, and what they asked is if all of the cities in Cache Valley would bring this up for discussion during their council meetings to get some input on it. And they continued it until their second council meeting in August. I don't know what that date is, but they wanted us to, they wanted the mayors to get back to them with whatever comments were received from the council about this green waste project. The Solid Waste Advisory Board voted unanimously for a recommendation. It was an option for to fund the green waste program, and you saw a presentation that Isa Hamoud put on. He is Logan City's environmental director, and he put that on for the county council as well. I can kind of summarize in a nutshell where this is at. Logan City is under contract with Cache County to provide the waste services, solid waste services. The green waste program and project started back in the 90s. And at the time it was started for the purpose of extending the life of the landfill, which is west of Logan City. And it's the revenues from the sale of green waste product, the wood chips, the compost, shredded tree, and other things have not covered their cost of running that operation to process the green waste. So Isa's comment is, he said, and we asked him to come up with a proposal, a series of options. One option is to maximize the reuse of green material. And he said we can do that. And we had said we want to encourage residents of Cache Valley to use that green waste. And he put a couple charts together as far as the volume of green waste received versus that was sold. So what he's come up with is a proposal that would cut the cost of various green waste items in half. And he's got a chart on his PowerPoint presentation. And what's the first item? Forget what it was. So the prices he's got on here are the current prices. For example, compost is $20 a cubic yard. He would cut all these prices in half, so the compost would be $10. Premium mulch $7.50, so on and so forth. Firewood, I think he said firewood would be free. So the reason Logan City wants to do this is obviously to extend the landfill, the life of the landfill that's now 5 miles west of Clarkston. But there's another thing that's happened since this whole green waste project was undertaken back in the 90s, and that is the EPA has come along and said if your landfill is generating methane gas due to material decaying and the biological process generates methane gas. Once the amount of methane gas that's generated reaches a certain point, then EPA requires that the landfill have a cap or some means of capping it to capture the methane gas. So that ends up being a big capital project. What's done with the methane gas, I don't know. I think it's over a certain amount of gas is generated, then it's the proposal is to resell it. The problem is it's a large capital cost. And as everybody knows, that when we're running an operation like this, that the cost to operate the solid waste operation are passed on to the ratepayers, and that means the residents of every city that contracts for solid waste services. So how far down the road that would be, as far as reaching the limit of the landfill, as far as generating methane gas, but ESA says after about 2 years, once biological material is dumped in a landfill, that it's decayed to the point where it's generating methane gas. So he said, I'd just assume, it's a lot less trouble for us just to dump it in the landfill, and then it's not a problem. But there's enough residents of our city certainly that spoke up and said, we'd like this green waste program to continue. We'd like the solid waste bins for the large branches and everything. We like the green bins. We like this to continue. And so here we are at this point right now. So the county council asked the mayors all to provide feedback to them before they vote on what's been recommended. Council, we lost Carrie. Any
Well,
comments?
I can comment really quickly. I just this is one issue that I've heard from a number of residents on that they want to keep green waste. I actually feel differently than that. I'd just to not deal with it, but I think the residents want it. So I think in the plan that we looked at in the agenda packet, I thought option number 3 looked like what the services the residents wanted. So I'm in favor of that.
It would cost $1.50 per residence each month, and it would be tacked onto the utility bill. And it would be charged to every residence in Cache Valley, including in the county.
I might
Brent?
make a comment if I may. Right now I have a green waste can that's costing me $5 a month. And so it would be a less expensive option for me to participate with alternative number 3 than it would be to keep my own green waste can. Now I live very close to the drop site, and I used to just throw it in my little trailer behind my 4-wheeler and run it up and throw it in. And I could even get there sometimes before it was dumped. People were dumping it all over the ground and stuff like that. So, but yeah, if we can manage our drop site well, go ahead. I just feel we need to manage our drop site well. There is, we're in here kind of close, and I thought, well, once a person has thrown it in his trailer to bring it up to the city bins, he just well run to Logan because he's not that far away. And therefore we wouldn't have to pay, as a city, we wouldn't have to pay to manage our drop site and have it picked up and hauled in, because once we got it on the trailer, it's only 2 or 3 miles. We're over at Logan and kick it off over there and we're done. So I had mixed feelings, but yet I understand that there's a lot of citizens. This is very handy. Besides, this is where a lot of people sit up there and talk and share their conversation. It's kind of like meeting down and having a drink, I guess. So anyway, I'm okay with the proposal number 3, although I think, I like number 2 too. Once you get it on your trailer, take it over and we wouldn't have to pay as much. So my thoughts.
Okay. Carrie?
I don't have a strong opinion. I do agree with Josh. Like, every bit of feedback I've received has been people wanting it and missing it. I'm sure there's lots of people who didn't even notice it was gone, but those who did weren't that happy about it. So, so I think that we need to do, that we need to listen to people.
Okay, Janelle?
I agree with Carrie and Josh that if this is what people want, we can go for it. But I am also agree with Brent that I have a green waste can, so it doesn't really affect me.
Okay. Hey, Rob?
Yes.
Okay, anything you want to add on this discussion with the green waste? I know you have a strong opinion, so.
Well, I'll support the will of the council. And I agree that there's been a lot of people that missed it for that little teeny duration that it was gone. Although the amount of green waste cans that showed up across town seemed to fill that void in a big way. And a lot of the chatter, at least on my end and the public works guys, it seemed to slow way down once those green cans got delivered. So that's my 2 cents. We can do the best we can to try to maintain that site, and hopefully if it does ultimately end up being option number 3, Logan City does happen to get another truck or 2 and they can do a more consistent job of getting to these locations before they overload. That's my biggest desire with this program, is that Logan is able to keep up with the demand, and we'll have to do what we can to keep abuse, because that's a big part of it. But yeah, I'm for the ultimate consensus of the group.
Okay, anyone else? I have
Mayor,
some things I wanted to add. Yes, go ahead.
I just, from what I read of the presentation, it was implied that the drop site pickup would be more frequent with this plan, with option 3. Is that correct?
Yes, so what ESA planned to do is hire another employee and I think acquire another, it's called a roll-on, roll-off pieces of equipment. But he said they were going to look at the patterns. They're going to do 2 things. They may establish additional drop-off sites because if our site, or say Nibley, gets a lot of volume, then they might say, well, we don't have one in Millville, let's put one in Millville, something like that. So they said they would monitor, but they'd also, I mean, Rob can tell you this, that they usually almost every day are out emptying the big bins. The other thing I might add, I had a discussion with my next door neighbor, Ivan Christensen. He asked me about the big bins, and he is one of the 46 people that asked for a green waste bin and got it delivered. So for him, it's a convenience. He has a trailer, but for him, it's a pain. It's a lot easier to dump his grass clippings and everything in the green waste bin and pay the extra every month than have to go down to Vaughn's Park. But the other thing about going to Vaughn's Park and the bins there is most of the time those are used for the larger branches where people really don't have to trim down the branches they've cut, so they fit in that green waste bin. So it serves both of those purposes. So he just said, well, if the big bins come back, he'll still keep his green waste bin. So.
I will admit that my concern with this is that we're servicing a lot of the commercial grass and lawn companies, and that everyone's paying for them to have a more convenient place to drop their stuff off. And you know, we get pushback from people on fixed incomes, and so it's, even though, you know, it's $1.50 per person, and a few people have sent emails and noticed.
For residents.
A few residents have sent emails because they noticed and they really wanted
No,
it.
for each household, not each resident.
Okay,
So,
right, each.
So here's a thought on that. And Carrie, I agree with you. And we've kind of had a discussion around this. And if we have people that want to do business in Providence and they have to get a business license and they're a landscaper, that we charge them an extra $100 a year. So what we tell them is they can use our green waste bins. And for them, it's a great deal, because what does it cost for them to run to the landfill and run back? And they've got,
In time and gas.
right, then they got their vehicle. I don't know, and I don't know how many landscape contractors do business in the city. Then they've got their vehicle and their guys that have to make the trip. And that means there's that much less actual landscaping that they can devote their staff to. So this is a win-win because they save money. And I don't know if $100 is a number that makes sense. Maybe Ryan can crunch some numbers. And so some of this, and it's not going to be a lot of money, could possibly be offset by what we charge the landscapers.
My other concern is that a few cities pay for everyone to have the convenience. For example, Millville, you said Millville doesn't have one. So Providence pays for Millville, to have a more convenient place to drop theirs off, or other cities, if they don't go on board with the new plan, how that will go down. I'm not exactly sure, or if they have to, I'm not sure of that either, but I just really wish it was a county program so that, it was more fair.
It is a county program. If the county council votes for this, it applies to every city in Cache
Oh,
Valley.
it will.
And every
Okay.
county and every county resident as well.
Great.
So we wouldn't be paying for it when Millville was not.
Okay, I
Millville
was
residents were
unclear
not.
on that, so thank you.
Sure. Yeah. Anyone else?
Mayor,
Yes,
you
sir.
know, I believe as close as we are to Logan, and a lot of the senior people, we get spring cleanup, we get fall cleanup. During the summer months, it's more standard maintenance, and a lot of those people have their lawns mowed and that sort of thing. Those landscapers and things like that have really taken advantage of this up here. I see load after load after load going up, and there's such a mess up there at times. They just keep dumping, not just them, but everybody just keeps dumping and dumping, and they don't respect it when it's full. I've gone up there with my own trailer and saw it was full, come back with my stuff on it, and others will go up and they unload and come back. It's just a bigger headache for our city, I think, with our public works and that, to keep cleaning up and messing with this. I think myself, I'm in favor of alternative number 2, which says we have the 2-month service, and we may choose not to have a drop site here. That we're close enough that if people have some tree limbs and whatnot, they're going to have to load them anyway. They just as well make the extra 2 or 3 miles over and drop them off at the Logan landfill. They don't charge you. You pull in there, scoot them out of your trailer, and you're on your way. Here, they throw them half the time. They don't make it in, and they're scattered all over. I think I'm really in favor of
That's
Providence City.
That's what we have now, I believe. All the cities have the same
Right, and I think we're close enough, and people are loading it to get here. Let's let them, and we won't have the bins here in the summertime, and they can choose, if they're going to have some limbs cleaned up. A lot of them, if they're doing it themselves, they just will load them and take them right to the landfill. I think we're close enough. If I was Clarkston, I'd feel differently.
Yeah. Well, Clarkston has the big bins as well.
Yes, I recognize that. And if I was in Clarkston, I'd want the bins. But as close as Providence is to the landfill, if I've got them on my trailer, it doesn't take a gallon of gas to go down and unload it and come back. And
Not everybody in Providence has it. Not everybody has a trailer.
Well, if they're moving trees, they've got to load them. They're not, well, I take that back. There are some that pull them down behind their car with a rope hooked onto them.
Or
That's
put them in
amazing.
the back of their SUV or something like that.
Something like that. I even see them dragging their garbage can down, hooked onto their ball on their hitch, with their bounce along the road, dragging their garbage can with stuff to go in the green waste.
That's one I haven't seen yet.
Oh, I've noticed that one coming down off.
You're right there, Brent.
I am right here.
Okay.
But I really think my favorite would be alternate number 2.
Carrie, you've got a pained look.
Yeah, I'm on the fence.
You're on the fence. Okay. While you're on the fence, let's ask Josh what his thoughts are.
I think I've already shared mine. So
Okay.
Mayor,
You-
I would chime in here. I've been to the landfill in the last 30 days, both for the green waste and to see that. They do an amazing job of the organization there. So anyway, and the material is very cheap. I'd give a shout out to them that material they have, I couldn't have bought it in a bag from Lowe's. It would have cost me as much to buy 2 bags as 2 truckloads.
So for anybody who puts any of that green waste to use, either the wood chips or the compost or any of that, this becomes a extremely inexpensive source of material.
It's great
for you.
material, and
Right. The other thing is to look at is we can put it off, and ISA puts it in the landfill. And at some point in time, and I don't know if we were to ask him what he would say, at some point in time, it won't be $1.50, it'll be something a lot more. Because he's got, I mean, here's how I describe it. Logan for a long time operated a wastewater treatment facility that consisted of settling ponds. And not too many years ago, EPA came along and said the nitrates and other contaminants that you're dumping into Cutler Reservoir are no longer acceptable. You will build a mechanical plant. And so now we have a $150 million project that Logan City is building as a result of what EPA came back to Logan and said, you will do, you don't have any choice. The result is the fees to all of our cities have gone up. And the other thing is now there's an impact fee that didn't exist before for wastewater. And that impact fee goes for all new development. And obviously they've built more capacity than the current population of Cache Valley in anticipation of growth. And that additional capacity is being paid for with impact fees, which weren't there before. So similar to the wastewater treatment, we've got a situation with solid waste, biological material going into the landfill. We can put out our best efforts to put it to reuse right now, or we end up paying for it somewhere down the road. So, I mean, I think we have one choice or another, and if it doesn't matter to us, then somebody somewhere down the road, whoever the residents are at that time, however many years out, when we're going to be paying to capture that methane. And the other thing is we're going to pay for a new location for a landfill at some point in time. So there's a trade-off. Janelle, are you still with us?
One more comment.
Sure,
Yes.
go ahead, Brent.
You know, unless you've gone over to the landfill and driven past the various compost or seen their compost on display as you're waiting to cross the scales, you don't have an idea what they provide or what is available to the public. It isn't published anywhere that I know of, maybe on Logan's website. I haven't looked, but if you're there unloading your material, you see what Logan City has to offer, maybe facilitating more use of what the products are to people. If you're there with your trailer, you go there planned, you unload your stuff, pick up some compost or whatever you need and bring it back to your property. I think that's also an added benefit in doing that. So I think that getting people, and the other thing too, I was going to say, I think if you got a way to get rid of your green grass clippings, you just naturally do it. But if you have to pay more, do more to take care of it, maybe you start compost or more mulch it on your own lawn. Now that's one thing we've started doing. Last year we collected all, over the years I've always collected. I cut a little more often, cut a little higher, and I mulch my lawn because I don't want to have to put that in the green waste bin. So there's some alternatives that people have to think about if we're not provided with all the convenience that we've had before. Maybe we look at a new norm with this problem.
Janelle, are you with us? There you go. The Bear Lake view.
Yeah, I am. A new one. My battery is dying. I'm fine with option 3. It's mostly a convenience. People could easily drive with their load, you know, down to Logan, but the feedback that I've gotten is that people don't want to. They like what they've been used to. And I feel like $1.50 a month is not an exorbitant charge for a convenience that people have asked for.
All right, any more comments? Ryan, any more you want to add?
Oh, I just wanted to shout out and give the landfill good credit for what they do provide there. If you haven't been, it is something to be able to put around your lawn and have those clippings or the wood chips and that. But whatever the council, I mean, I think that we've heard that from the residents that there's a lot of interest. One thing might consider is once somebody has added a fee, there's rarely a time that it gets taken back away. So once you have it, then it probably will just rise over time of something. So anyway.
Okay. I haven't given you my comments yet. I kind of do what Brent does. I don't take anything to the landfill. I don't have a green waste bin. I compost all the clippings, either mulch it on the lawn as you cut it. I mean, you put it in your mower on mulching mode. I have a chipper shredder that I bought, that I run, and it shreds leaves and branches and everything. The branches that are too big, I cut up, and they're apple trees, and I use them in my smoker. I also, in the fall, I go around and ask my neighbors if they wouldn't mind giving me their bags of leaves, because I put them in my garden. We're on half an acre. Not everybody does all that. So I'm not taking anything to Vaughn's Park. I'm not using a green bin. I do my own composting operation on Main Street on Main Street in Providence.
I'm guessing with the cost of your chipper and everything else probably exceeds the $1.50 a month that you would pay otherwise, right?
But you're you did a cost benefit analysis in your head, right, Josh? No, you're right, but it's kind of a neat little thing, yeah.
I get it. I grow
was about
tomatoes in my
$700.
tomatoes. I grow tomatoes in my backyard and they cost 4 times as much as they would if I bought them at the grocery store.
But they beat store-bought tomatoes in taste, hands down. There's nothing like homegrown. And you've got extra acreage there, Josh, as well, trees and everything else. So, okay. So we've got, what do we have? Brent says option 2, Carrie. Which side of the fence are you on? Josh, I think, said 3. I think Janelle said 3. Hold up fingers, Carrie. 3. Okay, Janelle says 3. Brent says 2. Okay, got it. Appreciate the feedback. Okay, Carrie.
Mayor,
Yes, sir.
as I
Yes, ma'am.
as I read as I read through option 2 on the slides, if we paid to have our site continued beyond the 1 to 2 months, do you think
do
that
that.
is something that
Can we do
additional
that?
fee to landscapers would pick up the cost of that?
Can we pay for it? Yes. Forget how much it costs. Rob can fill in on that. The
Could
problem,
landscaping fees pay for that?
well, here's the problem. We pay for it and Millville doesn't, or River Heights doesn't. And the word gets around that there's one of those big green waste bins at Vaughn's Park in Providence, and everybody goes there. So that's the concern that was voiced by some of the mayors, and so certainly that's something to consider. We have, and by the way, I had a long discussion with Isa, and he's giving us those big green waste bins free until September. I know other cities have just said, we're going to pay to have them there. I think September 1st is the go-ahead date, which with whatever option gets approved.
Well, and in saying 2, I would not be in favor of having the bins the extra months. So I guess I'm a 3.
Got it. Okay, any other comments? All right, hearing none, we'll move on. Okay, item number 3, resolution 025-2020, approval of RFP. Providence City Council will consider for adoption a resolution accepting a proposal for a comprehensive strategic municipal parks and recreation continuous improvement master plan. So this is a resolution we are going to vote on. So I need a motion from the council on this. So we'd be approving, and we've got and I'll ask Ryan to weigh in on this. We will be approving the proposals received from these outside firms, and we had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We had 7 responses to our RFP. Council, do I have a motion?
I'm looking forward
Mayor.
to the report, but I'll make a motion just to move things along here. I move that we approve resolution 025-2020, the resolution accepting a comprehensive strategic municipal parks and recreation continuous improvement master plan.
Motion from Council Member Paulson.
I'll
Do I have a
second that, Mayor.
Second from Councilwoman Seeley. Ryan, you want to lead us on this?
Sure, I can start off, and then we had Councilman Seeley or Council Member Seeley and Council Member Kirk with us on this one. And we did have 7 different responses. We scored them. They were a lot of good responses, and I believe that as we went through, the score was so close on the top 2 that we went through references, and I believe we have a recommendation. We can go through their proposal. It was sent out to you by shared Google Drive last night, and also this morning in an email to show you each of the top 3 proposals. But the top 3 proposals would have been MHTN, Landmark, and MIG. And if I'm not mistaken from our committee, we're recommending choosing MHTN for providing that service. Councilmember Kirk or Councilmember Seeley, any comments that you have on our committee and how that went?
Janelle had a previous experience doing this, so she had something to compare it to. But for me, it was my first time going through proposals, and I just was so impressed by the quality and the number. It, as you can tell when you look at our scoring, they were so close and so good. Ultimately, I was on the calls with Ryan when we checked references, and the MHTN references were stellar. I also really liked their team, the way it's put together. Their team has a big diversity of skill and a lot of experience. But I can say that about the other top two as well. It was really, I mean, it's so close.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with that. It was very, very close. But I am happy with MHTN. I think they'll do a good job.
I felt like we could have gone on for days and hours, weeks, months debating which one to choose because they were all so good.
Okay. Brent, any comments or questions?
No, Mayor, I don't have any. I like Ryan's method of scoring things. I worked with him on another proposal where we scored things. I think it's a very efficient and very effective way to go about doing things. So I trust the analysis that's been given. It looks good.
Okay, Josh?
Yeah, just two quick questions. Did we ask permission, or did we do any I call them off resume, reference checks, anyone that they may had not have provided, but we knew they provided work for, and any of those things, or were these all references that were provided by the firm?
The references that we checked were provided by the firm.
Okay. And then just, I mean, I hire a lot of vendors for various things, and certainly we use rubrics and do scoring and things like that. Sometimes it comes down to when it's really close, it's just like a fit question. I don't know if you ever had that discussion, like,
Oh yeah, we had to
who do you want to work with? Sometimes
Totally.
I just go, I want to work with these people more. It just feels like we'll have a better synergy. And I guess I'm saying is, do you feel like MHTN kind of has that synergy as well? It's just like they're going to work well with our city and staff and such.
I believe so. When I commented that their team seemed really impressive, part of that is your answer to your question, like the right fit. But we had to do a gut check when push came to shove, because we had all the scoring done, and then we looked at how much each company was charging, and that weighs in too. And MHTN was kind of in the middle, but there were some that were on the lower end that also had good proposals and could be a good fit too. It was just really tricky.
Great. So I know how I'm going to vote on this one, Mayor, and I'm going to try to pull a Kerry Kirk tonight and see if we can kind of speed things up on the ones that we know we're going to vote on. So I'm ready to vote if other council members are.
Okay. I just have some questions. I do know that price was a factor and price was used in the scoring. I'm trying to read what Ryan had here. Sunrise came pretty close, and they're $16,000-17,000 lower price wise. How close did Sunrise come when you had the discussion and met with those people and checked their references? Or did you not?
The one thing with Sunrise is they had a good proposal, but a lot of their experience wasn't really in a park and recreation master plan. They were local and they got good points for that, and they had a good proposal. But as I recall, some of that was really around some of the other experiences, and that their team hadn't been together really a long time for some of those. But they would have done well. Like the rest have said, we had a lot of good options, and that's a fun thing to have rather than having only one choice. So
Okay, and the other was blue, which was close as well, score wise.
yes, and I apologize. Blue only sent their proposal in physical form. They didn't send it in digital, and that's why it didn't get sent back out that way. So I apologize for those that haven't seen that one. Janelle or Carrie, you could comment on that proposal if you want, but I do apologize that that one wasn't sent out because it didn't come digital.
We really felt like MHTN and Landmark and MIG were significantly a better fit than the others.
Okay.
For multiple reasons.
Multiple reasons. Okay. All right. Any other comments, questions? Brent, any more? You want to add? Okay. Ryan, any more comments you want to add?
No, I think it's a process that we go through. I appreciate having several of the council having been participate in this. Josh, we'll get you on the next one if you're willing to do the sewer one. Would love to have you on that one. I like to move these.
Oh,
around.
they get the trees and I get the sewer? What in the
No, well, one
world?
got engineering, so you can pick a different one later. If you want cemetery, we'll get to that one later on in the year.
Oh, man,
Maybe it will be
I've been
easier. Maybe there won't be
mothballed.
so many.
Hey, Josh, sewer science is absolutely fascinating.
Yeah, it sounds like a kind of crappy work.
No pun intended, right?
Yeah.
We'll
Okay.
get one that will.
All right, so I think what we need to do is have the motion amended to specifically mention one of these proposals to be accepted.
I'll amend my motion, Mayor. I believe I started the motion, so I'll do that. I'll amend my motion that we approve resolution 025-2020, awarding the proposal to MHTN Architects.
Okay, have a motion from MHTN.
I'll
I need-
second that
From
motion.
Josh, from Councilman Paulson, I need a second, and I have a second from Councilwoman.
Councilman
Is that Seeley?
Seeley.
Okay.
Yes.
All right, no further discussion, no comment. We'll go ahead and vote on this. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
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 Okay, unanimous? Any nays? Hearing none, it's unanimous. MHTN is selected. The resolution is passed. Thank you all. All right, item number 4, resolution 026-2020 fiber. Providence City Council will discuss the possibility of creating a fiber utility and may adopt a resolution declaring their intent to proceed with the installation of fiber throughout the city. This is a discussion item. And it says we may adopt a resolution declaring their intent to proceed. So this can be a discussion only item. Or it can be a vote to declaring our intent to proceed. And if we're declaring our intent to proceed, I think we'd have to be specific in terms of guidance we give to the staff. Ryan, any clarification on that you want to give? Should we proceed with the discussion? Do we need a resolution, or what do you think?
I think this was added by two council wanting it on. I think we've had our town hall last night that was I thought very well attended and got a good information. We've talked about it. If there is more information that the staff needs to research or get data for the council, we're happy to do that. We are looking for what direction you want us to go. And if that's in one direction and more research or in another, or whether we cut bait and move to something else, however it is the council would like us to move, we'd appreciate some direction on where you want us to go next. We've had the study from Susie Becker. We've had the the town hall with Roger Timmerman and Strata. And I mean, so at this point, we just need to know what more you want from us, if anything at all, and how we can help. So from our side, that's all we're looking for. But I think that it kind of was added by members of the council. And so we turn that and respect that from them. So however you want to go.
Okay, we did get some email comments. I think all the council were either copied on it or there were copies forwarded to them.
So I asked the mayor if we could vote on this tonight, and I'm going to tell you what I would move, and then maybe we could have a discussion if that's the motion. I mean, honestly, I don't know what anyone else what your motion would be, but I've been the representative for fiber. And so, you know, a couple extra meetings and researching this and talking to people, I would move that we move forward with the Strata with a revenue bond. So it was interesting last night. There was a comment, you know, let's fix roads instead. But this would come from revenue from the
Subscribers.
utility. And so it's not taking revenue from the city. It only takes, I would propose this because those who are on fixed incomes that might give pushback, they don't have to sign up for Strata. I would also propose this because the survey that was taken, the response for take rate appears to be so high. Every person I've talked to, and I admit that my scope of influence is somewhat limited. You know, I'm within my neighborhood and my demographic generally. So, I admit that. But every person I've talked to personally would love to see fiber in Providence. It was clarified to me last night that faster internet is not going to just show up. And by getting fiber, we're not automatically signing up for 5G, but making that bridge possible to 5G. It really is a bet on take rate. And I feel comfortable that the take rate will be high enough that we should go with Strata because we'll receive the upside as a city, but not require it as a utility or cost to the general public. I believe that our take rate will be high enough. I think every resident will benefit with their property values going up. Susan's financial analysis I felt like was really helpful and really thorough to have a third party and not have Utopia or Strata representing themselves, but have someone who, ultimately will likely be involved with the financing, say that we could most likely finance it with the number of people who are interested. So that would be my proposal, the Strata revenue route.
So can you condense your motion down to
Yeah,
one sentence?
I just wanted to explain why that's what I would propose. So I move. Let's see if I can do this. Why do I always get the hard motions? Okay, let's see. I move that we move forward with resolution 026-2020 to use Strata for the installation of fiber and move forward with a revenue bond.
Okay, I have a
Are
motion
you
from
gonna make me restate it?
Councilmember Kirk. She has made a motion.
Question?
I'm going to write this down. I'm going to try and capture the essence of what you said, and then I'll read it back. You've made a motion to approve resolution 026/2020, and that is to accept the strata business model and ask the city staff to move forward with making arrangements for funding and contracting for installation. Ryan, you want to help us out on this? Just craft a resolution that's succinct and gives the staff adequate direction.
I think between those two, I think we would have that if that's what you wanted, to be able to get a bond and move forward with construction, or at least going down that road. I think there's some things we could work on as we went. So as we make those steps, we'd bring it back to the council, and so when the contract comes, that signature of the contract would come back to the council. When the bond came, that would come back to the council. So I assume this isn't a one and done motion, that there will be steps in this process. So.
Okay, so I have a motion on the table and I need to ask for a second motion.
Clarification.
Sure.
When Zions Bank presented strata, there was option 1 and option 2. Option 1 is every resident would pay $30 a month. Option 2
Right.
was that they would not. Are we doing option 2? Does that need to be included in the motion?
The strata model was only subscribers pay. And that's what your intent was, right, Carrie?
Only subscribers and
Right. So what you were describing, Brent, is what's called the utility model. The utility model is everybody is connected and everybody pays a basic subscriber fee.
Well, I have Zions Bank presentation in front of me, and it says strata option 1, and it says here that she presented that all residents and business pay a monthly infrastructure fee of $10. Option 2, I have here in front of me, says subscribers pay a monthly infrastructure fee of $30 and a monthly service fee of approximately $40. So option 2 was the one that only the subscribers had. Option 1, according to this Zions Bank presentation. So I'm just calling for, is there a need for clarification? I have this in front of me here. I printed it off.
You're correct. That has, I think the mayor, when things have been talked about, we've talked about that first option, the strata 1 option as the utility model. But you are correct. It was listed as an option under strata. But if I'm correct, Carrie, you're on option 2 for the strata option 2, the strata model that we called out last night in the town hall. Is that?
yes,
Subscriber only, right?
subscriber only. Yeah, I mean, I could also vote for 1, but I want people to be happy with this. And I want people who aren't interested in fiber to feel unaffected.
Brent, is that where you were going with this?
Yes, yes. Now I can, okay, now just as long as we make sure because that's what I am concerned about too.
Got it.
I follow what Carrie has said, and I just wanted to make sure that we were clear on what option or what we're doing for sure. Yes.
Okay, so are you seconding
Yes,
Carrie's
I
motion?
am now.
Okay, second from council member Spath. Further discussion, comments,
I
questions?
would like,
Go ahead, Carrie, or go ahead, Janelle.
I just wanted to say a couple of things. When Zions Bank was presenting the utility model, the basic service was discussed at 100 megabits per second for $30 a month. Was like a guaranteed service for all
Right.
residents. And a basic package with our current providers at about $30 a month is about 10 megabits per second. So I have mixed feelings on the utility model, because I feel like those people who are paying for basic, I think that was mentioned in the town hall last night, what kind of internet options are available for lower income, that the utility model actually is a decent option for that, because
At a $10
because
price.
they'd get better service for the same price point.
Yeah.
They'd get better service for the same price point. I agree with Carrie in the fact that I think a subscriber model will be received better. But just because people don't understand that they can get such better service for a similar price point than what they're paying.
You know,
But
I have a
maybe
question.
they just want to make that same decision on their own, and they don't want the city just to
They
decide
don't
it
want
for
us to
them.
make their decisions for them. I would
Right.
love to see that presented to them though, and have more subscribers. But if we let people make their own decision, they'll be happier with us.
That's true. That's true.
One of the things from a city standpoint is each residential connection costs about $1,000. So if you've got someone who's $10 a month, basic service, you're still running a full connection to that household, regardless of what level of service they pick. And the subscriber model would mean that, when we talk about build out, we're talking about putting trunk lines down every street. And by the way, that doesn't necessarily mean tearing up asphalt. So the capability is down every street, but it doesn't mean that every residence, every home is connected. As time went on and we had more subscribers on board, we would have whoever we contract with to do field service to do that that connection. And the term they use in the industry is called a home run. And a home run is different than what we have right now. When we lived on Grandview, we had a Comcast connection and it ran down the backyards of all of our neighbors, going down all the way down to Canyon Road. So we shared that pipeline. Now we've got CenturyLink, and it's the twisted pair of the old phone line, and it's down our backyards, down along the fence line, and we share that with all of our neighbors as well. So if we've got heavy usage, then our service is compromised. With a home run, there is no compromised service, because it goes all the way back to the whatever the box is called that they call. So there's no degradation in service at all. So that also makes it expensive, and that's why it's the $100 price tag. So it's a superior service, even if you're just getting basic service. We pay $55 a month, including taxes and everything, for 100 megabits. And we have service failures at least once a week. Okay,
Mayor, can I say something else?
sure, you bet.
My only concern with proceeding with the strata model is that I don't feel like that we're ready to finalize the plan and the price, because I think we need to ask more specific technical questions.
We don't have any price proposals at all at this point.
That's fine. I'm just saying that's, I feel like the next step is that we need to get a very technical, detailed plan before us and choose between the options and the price that is going to cost us. But I think going forward with the strata model provides a lot of financial benefits for the city, because I do feel like people are very interested in improving their service. as long as we're, refining the technical end of it before we price it out.
Mayor, may I comment on
Sure.
that a little bit? This resolution isn't meant, as Ryan said earlier, as a one and done. This resolution is meant to just get us started down the path. We have to follow certain procedures in order to bond, public hearings, different type of things. You'll probably want to put together an RFP for proposals and different things like that. But this was just to tell the staff to start going down those lines.
Right.
If you were at a point that you decided we weren't ready to do this, or you were just going to leave it in the hands of private companies and wait for that to come, then we would have stopped work on this and looked other directions. But this is not the end of the game by any way, shape, or form. This is not giving it to Strata and saying, we're going with you, let's run with it. This is just telling us you like that type of model and you're interested in pursuing a revenue bond. And that's all. We're not giving anybody any contracts or anything at this point.
So-
Wouldn't you say that's a fair statement, Ryan?
I believe that's a fair statement. I think what we would pair out, if that motion passes, it would tell us, we probably don't need to get more research from Utopia. We would be interested in getting more information for the revenue bond. And revenue bonds, whether they require, different public hearings and different things. Obviously, we could identify those, identify funding sources, and proceed down the road of those two avenues. We would get with Strata and further pare down the details as Councilmember Seeley mentioned. We would have to get some more details. We would work towards potentially getting to enough detail that we could get to a contract, but that way we would know which direction you want us to go. If you don't pass this one and you pass the Utopia, then Roger's my next call and I start working on some of the details there, and
All right.
whichever way it goes, I just need the direction to know the next 5 steps before it comes back, and then it'll come back to the council for the next approvals. You're not letting the reins go. You still have a lot left. You can't give up on this. Well, you could. You can't assume this is one and done. So you're right, to Scarlett's point, and we still have to work out some of the infrastructure and how that works and where that goes. And we want to make sure that this isn't something, we've made a lot of progress in our roads. We don't want this to come back and take us backwards in the progress we've made to improving our roads. So there's a lot of things we need to make sure that are done right as we proceed down the road with whatever option, but this will help us to know which direction you want us to proceed.
I have a suggestion. And the suggestion is that we could go back to Strata. By the way, I've not heard anybody bring up Utopia. And Ryan, I think.
Mayor, I haven't had a chance to speak yet, though. So at some point in time, I'd like to speak on the issue.
I know, just something I want to throw out. We could ask Strata to price out both options and give us the details on what each option would involve and cost. So we can get to that juncture and make a decision and pick one or the other. So like Scarlett said, we're not committed, we're just asking the staff to proceed. I'm sorry, Josh, go ahead.
Yeah, I did have an opinion on the matter. Like Carrie, I've done a lot of research on this topic, including I actually had an interview earlier this week on an item related to work regarding broadband access with RCR Wireless, and spoke with one of their editors, and we talked about fiber and wireless too. And so I've been able to learn a lot there. We've gotten a lot of overwhelming comments, I think, from people regarding wanting fiber. I'll personally just state my opinion. I think you might be surprised. I'm actually in favor of the utility model that we have here. I'm not interested in doing another bond as a city, even a revenue bond. In that instance, if the take rate is not sufficient, the city ends up owning that city, which being the residents end up owning that debt anyway. And I also don't think it's a choice between forcing fiber on people. I think we've reached a point where internet is required to function in society, and pretty much everybody has it except for, as Councilman Seeley pointed out, those who may not be able to afford it at all. And I think there's even legislation discussion being like, those people who don't have the internet in their homes are actually extremely disadvantaged in terms of what they can do and how they can participate in society. So I'd like to see them have it. We own the infrastructure as a city for everything else. We have sewer lines, and we have water and all of those things. Those are city owned utilities, and I don't see the internet being any different, being a utility these days. I'm most interested in not doing fiber to the premise or FTTP to all homes. I mean, I really want to make sure we've got the appropriate backhaul and the main trunk lines, so that we don't end up expending money in infrastructure in terms of optical to all people's homes when wireless technology comes up. We have a home here in Providence that they went to the effort and money of wiring Ethernet throughout the entire house. I don't know if anybody has one of those where you've got Ethernet to the whole house. And then I think it was 10 years later, it was like, oh, we only need one room with Ethernet. We all have wireless, but we're glad we have that in that one instance. And so I want to make sure as we proceed, if we proceed with optics, fiber optics, that we really put it in the places where we most need it, and we pair that with wireless technologies that comes up, so we don't end up paying for infrastructure that we don't need. But I'm very much in favor of the utility model. That may be untenable to a few people, but I think once they look at the data and the bit rate and the cost and realize that we're not necessarily turning into an ISP, we're just go ahead and applying a fee so we can maintain and have that infrastructure like we would sewer or water. I think people would be much more receptive to it. And I think it guarantees that this endeavor will be successful, which I think it needs to be. I think this needs to be a successful endeavor. I don't want to be fighting over take rate on this. I want to make sure that this works, because I think it's that important to the city. So.
Anyone else? Comments? Questions? Ryan, anything else you want to fill in here?
Like I said, I could go with the utility model too. I could really go either way. I just think and either way we have to have a loan. We have to have a bond, right? I mean, am I confused on that?
No, you're right. We do have to have a bond.
Yeah, so either way we have a bond, but the take rate obviously will be much higher with the utility model.
The take rate's 100% with the utility model.
Right, and then it just becomes what plan. And I think that internet is a utility. It's come to a point where, there was a point where when not every house had running water, and then cities decided it was a utility that every house would have running water. And I think we're getting to that point with internet.
Okay. So are you amending your motion?
Well, Ryan, is it possible with the motion that I've given?
So,
well, I guess Councilman Seth wouldn't want to second it if we were going utopia, looking at either model.
Utopia is a subscriber model, right, Ryan?
I'm sorry, not utopia.
Strata.
Strata. We want to move forward with, we want to move forward with Strata, but would it have to be amended we want to move forward with Strata, we want to move forward with funding? Would it need to be amended? Or does it come down to when we receive the proposals at looking at whether we want, which model we want?
So let's reiterate my suggestion. And that was, rather than make a utility model, we're calling it a strata model, but there's probably a better term for it. Rather than making that choice tonight, why don't we go back to strata and say, strata, price out the utility model, and go back and price out we're calling it the strata model for want of a better word. So that once we look at what strata comes back to us with, we can say, absolutely, utility model makes sense, let's do that. Or let's not do the utility model, let's do the other business model. And so we can make that choice at that point in time.
Right.
So the direction to the staff, you know, and Ryan can clarify this, is to go forward with Strata and ask them to give us a proposal and price out both options.
Yes.
I'm fine with that. If she amended her motion, I would second it.
Okay, Ryan, you're started to speak there.
Yeah, with some clarification, I think one of the next things with Strata would be to get a detail design and get them starting on a design system. That design has to be everywhere, whether it's utility or whether it's a subscriber. We still have to have the design. And so that would probably be us engaging them to have a design of the system and where we could go. They'd need that before. That's like when we get for engineering, we're common there. We get the next step in engineering, we have the concept, but in order to get to an engineered design, we've got to work to the next level. And if that's what we're looking for, and getting that next level, then I would say one of those levels is probably getting an engineer or a design from them that would say, hey, here's how we would lay it out. These are the paths. These are where our trunk lines would go. But I think some of that would probably be one of the next steps. Then we could know a lot more of the infrastructure detail. We'd have more of the information that Councilmember Seeley's looking for. We can ask for cost models, but at this point, we're really looking to say, well, how is the build out? What's a plan model rather than a cost model?
So
we could have costs associated, but I think we're looking for a plan model.
So can we make a distinction at this point of the discussion right now? We call it either the utility model or the subscriber model. Can we substitute subscriber model for
I
what
think
we,
that's good.
so what we previously called the Strata model, let's just call it the subscriber model and call the other one the utility models. Utility model being that we connect every household, that we charge at least a basic fee to every household. And then the subscriber model is one where we only connect the subscribers. And as we bring on more subscribers, then we add the household connection. So that's just a distinction in terms of language. But the other, what I suggested is that we ask Strata to move forward, give us two options, and then at that point have the council make a decision on the subscriber or utility option.
Mayor,
Yes.
we cannot ask for cost until we have a design, because there's way too much variation on what the cost will be without a specific design. So I don't think it would be productive information. We
What if
need
it's not a
need
specific
a design first.
So what if it's not
And
a
once we have a design, then we can get a request for proposal from different companies that install fiber to actually implement it and see if a different company, you know, may or may not be a better financial fit, in my opinion.
Ryan?
Oh, Brent has his hand. I'd yield to him with he'd be on the council.
Okay, Brent?
The utility model. I'm not opposed to the utility model. However, there are some concerns with the utility model that I am concerned with. Number one, I would hate to see us as a city operate the system. I have spoken with Public Works. I have spoken with the guys. I think it would be a real need for an expansion of our abilities to operate the infrastructure portion of the utility model. I just don't think that's
My understanding
Good
is many
idea.
of those services will be
Number
contracted
two,
out though, correct?
Yeah.
Well, it has the option in it as utility models. City may want to operate the system or contract with the network.
Just to clarify my position, I'm with Brent on that one. I don't think we should operate it. I think we can contract those services for people that are more qualified to do so. That's my position on the utility model.
Okay,
I think American Fork that is planning to operate the utility model. I don't know what their population is, but I think they're closer to the size of Logan, Brent. They may have had the, for them, it may have made sense to operate a utility model for a city our size. Josh is absolutely right. We would contract it out.
The second question that I'm not clear on, if we go with the fiber optics internet, what does that do for those who want to remain with cable television or some of these other services that they've been accustomed to? Do they get TV? Do they get other services? Do they get it through this system? Can somebody tell me?
The Comcast and CenturyLink business is two components. Right now, there's the what we would call the network, the actual physical infrastructure, some of which is on telephone poles. There's the maintenance of that. There's the operation of that. There's the repair. There's the response to homeowners that have a connection problem. That's the network part of the business. There's also what I call the content part of the business. The content part is providing an internet connection, providing a landline. It's providing entertainment. It's the media part. That's ESPN, that's HBO, the Disney Channel, all those other. And then they have a pricing tier level. So they're giving you a price table that tells you if you want 100 megabit, you're going to pay this price for internet connection. If you want phone line, you're going to pay, I don't know, $15. If you want the basic television package, you're going to pay $25, add it all up. But you're also going to pay a separate bill to the city of Providence. And that's for the basic network service. Right now, it's all bundled because it's all the network and the content is handled by both sides. In the future, and I'll give you an idea. Utopia has 12 different content providers, so it's very competitive. And they offer an internet speed, and they offer a landline, and they offer a package of channels that you can subscribe to, and you pick what coverage you want. But there's also a basic charge that is collected just for the service to your home. So it's just like when you pay for your gas meter. This time of year, if you don't have any gas appliances, you're paying a basic charge for that meter and the connection, and you're going to pay that whether you use any natural gas or not. It's similar to that. And then as you need natural gas, that's the content. That's what runs your furnace and runs your stove and everything else.
So if we go this route out with the Strata utility model, Utopia, does that limit people's access to some of the things that they have been accustomed to? You said Utopia has 12 different providers. What does Strata have? Do they have providers that people can also say what comes from this?
Ryan, how many did Strata offer in Roosevelt?
I don't know that they have a lot of ones to offer. It's not necessarily exactly like that in the model. Once you get connected for internet, a lot of it is the connection and the speeds and all of those. A lot of people don't recognize who the intermediary is or their ISP. A lot of that is speed and download. But these are some of the questions that we say, you know what, if we're going to go down that, like I said, we would need to design. We need to get some of these things that are our preferences. But to Councilmember Smith's question, you know, if we go to a strict utility model, everybody pays for that utility. And if they choose to have somebody else at the house that they currently have, they could have that. It's like a recycle bin that everybody had to take, even if they used it or not. So a strict utility model would add an amount that way, if that makes sense. If you think about the blue bin, that's kind of a utility model for recycling, whether you put the can out on the street or not, whether you use it or not, or whether you haul your recycle somewhere. Strict utility has everybody paying the base amount. So hopefully that helps answer the question.
Well, I'm somewhat hesitant in a way. I know a lot of folks who do not access, and they're elderly, and you know, they're going to be tagged $30 a month for this blue can, if you will. And but yeah, everybody has waste. Everybody has need for water. Everybody has need to get rid of their sewage. Now, not everybody yet needs internet. Now, I know you folks that I'm looking at are highly technical people, and you internet. I'm a late comer, not a very smart one either. And I use it, and I like the internet, and I use it a lot. And sometimes I get real frustrated with my own internet when I get pauses in it and I can't hear everything that you're saying. I would love to have fiber optics, and that's something that I'm excited for. But on the other hand, I'm still very nervous about tagging everybody and saying, okay, you're going to need it sometime. So regardless, I'm going to tag you for it right now. That's just my hesitancy. That hesitates me on the utility model where everybody has to pay. I still think we are the point that ought to be an option. That's my thoughts.
So at this point, it seems like we all agree that we want to move forward with fiber. Is that true? And getting more information from Strata.
To make a decision on which model.
Yeah, but
Well, it's not quite that. Janelle's comment was, maybe it's Strata, maybe it's not Strata. We need to have the network designed, pay somebody to design the network first. And then take it out to bid. Maybe it's Strata we hire to do the actual physical construction, and maybe not. Janelle, is that kind of what you were saying? Okay. Brian, what do you think?
I would say that we probably, based on the conversation, and I don't mean to speak out of turn that way, but what I'm hearing is that you'd be interested in having us engage Strata to do a design of a fiber system and then bring that back so that we could either bid out construction, choose whether it's a utility or a subscriber model, but the next engagement would be to engage Strata to do a design, a detailed design of the system that we could make further decisions from. Is that how I've understood that?
Would you amend your motion, Carrie,
I was afraid that was coming.
as Ryan is suggesting?
Okay,
And
so
Brett, you made the second. Would you feel comfortable with that?
sorry, I have to get open my agenda. There we go. There it is.
Mayor,
Janelle, do you need to say something before I amend?
yeah, just one more thing. I mean, is everyone okay with Strata doing the design work, or do you want to bid that out too?
I would actually, if we're going that route, I would prefer to bid that out in terms of who does the design work. I think if Strata does it, I think they have, and I'm okay with them today, but doesn't that give them an upper hand in once we get to the bidding and implementation, if they've done the design work?
I agree, Josh.
So what you're saying is Strata could design in their switches that they have that's proprietary or something to that effect, which another contractor could not bid on. Something like that, right?
Something to that effect, or at least, yeah, they didn't engineer
Bias
things
it,
that were
it would
advantageous
bias
to
it in
them.
their favor, right?
Yeah.
I think from my end, Strata's only involved because we took the American Fork model that was utility and tried to find a solution on how it actually worked. They haven't actually, I mean, they're interested in helping us to our end. But keep in mind, they're willing to say, if you need our help, great. If you don't, we're fine with that too. I think if we go to engage them to do a design, I don't know how many other fiber companies would come in and do a design and do that. So I don't know that's a large market. I think a construction market, there is a construction market, and we can have that. But this is kind of like a design build system, and that's how I would proceed in the course, is kind of a design build that would say, all right, let's design, let's get some of that. But before we get too completely designed, we get the idea that we can answer the next level of questions without starting the construction. And we could bid out construction work fairly easily. Different pieces of equipment have different uses and different ways to do it. But I don't think they have any interest in designing it so that it's solely for them. That they're not here for that avenue. They didn't really approach us. I reached out to them to fill that void to try to accomplish the American Fork model. And without somebody in that boat, we couldn't have come to that option. So anyway, if we want somebody else, we can reach out. I just don't know who else we would have it bid to. I suppose we could put out an RFP and see who responds. If you want, I'll do whatever.
But let's put an RFP out, because even if, we might only get 1 or 2 people that propose on it, if you're saying that there's not a lot of people with that expertise. But we might end up with 7 or 8 like our parks, and we would get our best fit if we choose from a wide pool, in my opinion.
Even Comcast could bid if they wanted to. No reason why not. Although when I tried to contact Comcast, I got no response at all with 2 efforts.
Well, and
Did you call their customer service line? Press 0, or did you?
Oh my gosh. Well, there's the consumer line, and they're typically very helpful, but I've dealt with Comcast as a business customer, and they're absolutely horrible.
Okay.
I think, and I've heard that Comcast, CenturyLink, and those are right now, they're not interested in replacing their existing infrastructure. The only place they are trenching for conduit to put fiber in is down Gateway Drive, down Highway 165, down First North, because they're connecting the business customers that are writing a big check every month.
Okay, so I'll amend my motion on resolution 026/2020 fiber to say that we move forward with the intent to proceed with the installation of fiber by getting a design, a RFP for design.
I mean, we asked the city staff to prepare an RFP to be sent out,
Yeah.
to solicit bids. Okay.
I think
All right.
I would second that, but I think since it's amended, Brent wouldn't he have an opportunity to?
Yes.
I would second that. I'm okay with that.
Okay, so you're accepting her amended motion?
Yes.
All right. So is everyone clear on what Councilwoman Kirk's motion is? I see Josh has his thumb up.
Let's vote.
Janelle has her thumb up. Ryan, were you saying something?
Just one clarification. Does that go to the point that the staff prepares it and sends out the RFP?
Yes, and,
Yes.
and
Yes.
send out.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right.
Will, never mind. I
Okay.
think that's the next step, right? I mean, we don't need to worry about funding to move forward on that next step.
Right.
Right.
I mean, we could get RFPs. We could get responses to RFPs, and we could say we don't like any of them, and we can change our mind. And we could change our mind and say, you know what?
Forward with the intent to proceed with installation.
I mean, we could send out the RFPs, and this is for construction. We could say we don't like them, and we could change our mind, and we could say we prefer to choose Utopia. Or we could say we prefer to do nothing. So, I mean, to the point Scarlett was trying to make is we're just giving direction to the staff. We're not committing to a bond issue. We're not committing to a contract for construction. We're merely committing, we're merely asking the staff to prepare the RFP.
Right.
All right.
Yes.
We all on board with that? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Good. So we're unanimous on that?
Mayor, can I ask one more just quick question?
You bet.
Would it have any merit? And I know we put out a feeler, and I know we had about 400 people respond that they'd be interested in fiber. And that's a pretty good representation of 2,400 households.
Yep.
I mean, that's 1/6 of them. That's a pretty good participation. Would it be of any merit to find out if people would, what our percentage of people would be willing to take it on as a utility and pay $30 a month for it? Or is that, would it be too much for
We don't know if it's $30 for a utility.
them because they don't understand the value of it? Sorry, what?
Oh, we don't know that it's $30 for the utility. I just want to be careful that we're not quoting those prices because we don't know that yet. I mean, we have the Zions Bank study, which said under utility model, it might be $10. So I just want to be careful that we're not mixing narratives here.
Maybe we just question if they'd be able to, if they'd be willing to pay a fixed fee in relationship to having the opportunity to have fiber throughout the city. I don't know. Would that be something that would be worth sending out and asking people to respond through the utility billing? I don't know.
Ryan?
I feel like we should wait until we have more information on.
Yeah, when we can actually tell them how much it'll cost and how much the download and upload speed will be. Everyone I talked to said they want fiber. They all said, well, how much would it cost? You know, and
So
we
the
kind of
upload
said
and
the speed, we
downloads,
don't know. Yeah.
the upload and download speed, what we heard last night was 1 gigabyte up and 1 gigabyte down.
For basic connection under.
For all the service Utopia provides and all the service Strata provides.
Now, under utility, you'd have one base rate, and then you could have different levels up to a gig up and down, but the base rate wouldn't be starting at the 1 gig.
So the base rate would have to, for the purposes of the survey, we'd have to say the base rate is, pick a number, $30. For that base rate, you get 100 megabits or something. Or maybe we structure it and say the base rate is 10 megabit per second. You can do basic email and you can do a web browser. But beyond that, you're limited in bandwidth. And maybe that's $10. I don't know. It's like Josh said, we need to have some solid numbers in front of us to put that kind of a table together so we could present it.
I'm okay with waiting on that.
Yeah.
I like Carrie's response to that. I like Josh's input. Let's wait, but at some point, I think that needs to take and be put out to the citizens so they get a as close as we can, so they know what we're trying to make a decision on. That's my thought.
Okay.
I'm fine with the survey, but I think that it is, I agree with Carrie and Josh that you'll get a more accurate feedback with price and data rate information.
I agree, Janelle. The only thing I'd add, Brent, that I'm going to think about, and maybe you want to think about too, is decide what if the survey's put out, decide what your decision criteria are going to be before that survey goes out. If you have 10 people of all Providence residents that say, no, I don't want to do that, but everyone else does, is that going to be enough to sway your decision, or is it, 75 or 25%? Obviously not everybody in the city wants recycling either, but at some point, there's what will be the decision criteria that we'll use if we put a survey out.
I would just comment to that, Josh, and the fact that, if you come back with an overwhelming 50% better that says, I'm in favor of it at this price, we can move forward with it. There's always in city government, you got people that don't want to move forward with something. But if you get an overwhelming says, no, I'm not interested, then I think we need to take that into consideration.
That's absolutely agree. Absolutely agree with you. We're on the same page.
Okay. I think we voted. We were just talking in terms of getting some clarification. And Josh made the point, we can have some pricing information once we've gotten some proposals. We good to go, Ryan?
One question for the group. Originally, we had talked about doing some research and getting some legwork done for the loan and bond work. Some of that takes time. So some of this could run simultaneous to that. Is that of interest to try to get those conversations started and know where we're at? And that may be a different motion, I suppose, because it wasn't included the last. But do we go down the road? Not that we're signing the dotted line for the loan, but getting to the point that we say, here's our options, here's something we can act on when we do know. And I don't know how long that takes. Some of them take months. And so I was just trying to get some of the head work done on that. If that's
When I paused in my motion, it was because I was wondering if I needed to add working on the loan, because even getting the layout, I mean, that's going to cost a significant amount of money to get the design work done. So I personally feel like starting on the loan is an important step to do simultaneously.
And I will second that, Carrie, too, because we know we got to have money, and to get on with money, it's going to take money. We got to have a line on it, know where we can go, what we can do, and get our paperwork started. I'm in favor. Second that in your motion.
I think it will also be part of knowing what the cost is, because we need to know what we're looking at for the loan, the cost of the loan.
And we've got ballparks that we could start down and work on and refine as we go. I just wanted to make sure if that was, because we had talked about it, I didn't want to go down that road. If you said, oh, no, we didn't want you to do that. So I just trying to clarify that's the case. So anyway, but yeah.
So we would want pricing from financial institutions on what, not the amount of the loan, but what their service charges are and interest rates, right?
And interest rates options, things like that, yeah. And avenues, what are the benefits or disadvantages to one type of loan versus another, versus a bond of this type or that. Start down those financial projection models for financing projections, and if it changes, we can modify those details, I think. But we start down the avenue of knowing what our options are for financing.
Okay. We good?
You have a motion and a second. You want to take the vote?
Okay, everybody clear on what's on the table? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Unanimous. Thank you all. Good discussion. We'll be fiber experts a year from now.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on to the easiest one on our agenda. Item number 5, Resolution 027-2020 Planning Commission appointment. Providence City Council will consider for adoption a resolution appointing Robert Perry to a second term on the Planning Commission. Bob Perry has served his full term. His term is up the end of this month. Bob served as part of that time during his term as chair. He recently took a full-time job working for the Forest Service. He still wants to remain on the Planning Commission and asked if we would reappoint him. Do I have a motion?
I move that we approve item number.
I'll make a motion, Mayor, that we approve. Never mind.
Go ahead, Brent. I'll second you.
No, go ahead. I'll
Oh,
second
okay.
it.
Item number 5, move that we approve item number 5, resolution 027-2020, reappointing Robert Perry to a second term on the Providence City Planning Commission.
Motion from Councilman Paulson. And I have a second from Councilman Speth.
Yes,
Discussion,
second it.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Carrie?
Aye.
Unanimous. All right, see, what's the easiest one? All right, item number 6, letter of intent. Providence City Council will discuss and may make a decision to proceed with a letter of intent to purchase parcel 02-115-0034, a 9.49 acre parcel located in the general area of 10th South and 300 East. And we know it, city staff, as the Thompson property that belongs to Dale Thompson and his wife. I think everybody knows where that parcel is. It's across from the Stake Center, and the Stake Center straddles the municipal boundaries of Millville and Providence. We've discussed it before. We've talked about what our intended use is, besides a recreational facility. Also would be a retention pond. Sometime last year, we had one of our residents, who's a civil engineer, did a conceptual sketch to see if the property would fit 2 multi-purpose fields that could be used for football, soccer, or lacrosse, along with parking. I think it had a pavilion as well as a playground area. So that's what's on the table. Ryan, you want to give us the particulars as to what we have been, what the staff has come up with and what we have been counter offered on this property?
So with the, we talked before from the council asked that I look into this and approved moving forward with the engaging the Thompsons on a purchase. I've done that. We started in a range of 500, and that's what we talked about. We have moved that based on our appraisal, and then they received an appraisal. Their appraisal came in at 590,000. They are asking 600,000 for the property and a 10,000 earnest money. So we would pay that, and then we'd close with the other 590. So if we convert it out of Greenbelt, they are saying we would be responsible for the fees, and I believe they have an estimate to that in there. I thought it was around 20. I'm looking for it now, so if somebody finds it before I do, I apologize. But anyway, it's expected to be around 20 to 25,000 if it converts from Greenbelt. So anyway, that is where we're at. You know, we've looked at the market. We had some high interest when I was challenged to go and to work on this project. I believe it's coming back. A few of the things that could be done with this. If you're interested, we could make a motion to accept. If we're going to discuss negotiation. So if we say, no, we don't want it that, but negotiations for land would go to a closed session. So the discussion here wouldn't be about change of price, but if you want to talk about change of price, then we go to a closed session.
Right.
If you're good with the price that we're at, then we can proceed and have a motion to purchase it and to proceed with closing. So anyway, hopefully that's what you wanted me to do, and I brought it back to you.
Okay, let me clarify what Ryan is saying is we can have a motion to accept the counter offer from the Thompsons. If we have a motion to go into executive session, then we will talk about a counter offer to their offer. So I need a motion to either accept their offer, which would be 600,000 plus the greenbelt fees. And what did you say that was, 23,000?
20 to 25, I have to look.
25,000. That'll come from the county. That's the, it's currently in greenbelt. To take it out of greenbelt, there are back taxes because the property taxes assessed were lower over the years. So that would be recaptured because the greenbelt has to be held for a certain length of time. The estimate is 25,000. So the motion would have to be either we accept the offer from the Thompsons, which would be the 600,000 plus the assessment for the greenbelt coming out of greenbelt. So that would be 625,000 estimate. Their appraisal was 590,000. The city's appraisal was 570,000. Ryan has gone through in great detail the differences between the two appraisals. The second option we can do is go into executive session if we choose to come back and offer something different to counter what the Thompsons have offered. So I need a motion from the council. We clear on that? Any questions?
Clear.
Go ahead, Josh.
I'll move that Christina Eck is kind of a resident real estate expert, and I think she talked a little bit about price on this one. While I would love to go back and negotiate with them, I think large parcels of undeveloped land in Providence get snatched back up, and I'd rather not get in a bidding war with a land developer. So I move that we accept the offer or the letter of intent for item number 6, parcel 02115-0034.
Motion from
I'll second that.
Councilmember Paulson, second. Was that from you, Carrie, or Janelle?
Janelle and I both seconded it.
Okay,
Carrie can have it.
all right. So the motion is that we accept the Thompsons offer, which is 600,000 plus the greenbelt fees. I call it recapture. And it also includes the 10,000 earnest money we don't have a problem with. So that's the motion and the second. Any further discussion on that? Brent, anything you want to add?
Well, it's yes, I think we ought to move forward with it just because we don't have another option out in that area. We want that property. We have a specific need for it. It's not like we have 2 parcels we're deciding between or anything like that. It's the only piece. I think, it might be a little bit a stretch, but hey, it's probably not. So let's move forward with it.
We actually do have an option across the street, the Spend Love property, and it's about 9.5 acres as well. We haven't gone down that path. What we did get back from the Spend Loves is they said if we sell it to the city, then the city would have to agree that it would be park space in perpetuity. Ryan's response to that is, can we modify the title restriction and say it could be park property, or we could build some form of recreational facility or some general description of it. So there is a second option if the council chooses to consider that.
Where's that
Not
across the street? Where's that across the street? Because I know the church is right across the street. Is this in Millville or county? Help me picture where this is at.
So it's in Providence. The family that owns it is the family of Rex Spendlove, who started Cyclone. It is a different shape. It's not a square rectangle. It's kind of L-shaped. When you come down the hill and you see the church property there, At some point, it becomes the Spend Love property. And I'm not sure exactly where the boundary line is.
So there's that kind of private dirt driveway. Does that kick it back into it? Is it that piece that
So
sits back in there?
that dirt driveway does border the parcel we're talking about, yes.
Okay. Okay. Well, I think that parcel's inferior to the one that we're looking at.
Okay.
Big open square space like that gives us a lot of flexibility, and it's on a corner. So, you've got kind of egress and ingress out of there. I think it's ideal.
Well, not only that, it has the street bordering two sides. Although I think we would probably, that dirt road you're referring
and not
to,
only
Josh,
that,
we would probably pave that.
if I'm not mistaken, if we ever decided we wanted to put restrooms there, there's a sewer not too far from there and water, where on the other side of the street, we wouldn't have sewer, would we?
Don't know.
I think that's correct, Brent.
That is a correct statement.
That's a Rob question.
Rob said that's correct.
Okay.
Two points to clarify. I know you have a motion, but 2 points to clarify. One, we would need to have this update the budget, because the budget doesn't reflect this amount. And so we would need to update so that the budget reflects this amount. And two, there probably is some closing costs with title insurance and some of those kind of things. So an exact number, as long as we're matching to the letter of intent. And I think that's what the motion was, is that we'd proceed with the letter of intent and proceed in those costs. But just two clarifications.
And the other thing for clarification is the funds would come out of our capital projects fund.
Mayor,
Yes, Carla.
the funds would come out of the park impact fees. We
Okay,
have,
well, part of it, right?
it's an unreconciled balance right now, but roughly $697,000 in park impact fees. So
even
this will
better.
deplete your park impact fee.
Okay, even better. I get thumbs up. Okay, all right.
I assume the motion does include amending the budget.
Oh,
to-
Ryan, we can't do that. We have to have a public hearing to amend the
Oh,
budget.
That's true.
Okay,
Okay.
so that doesn't hold up. We're replying back to the Thompsons and saying we accept, or the
No, we'll
council
just
says
need to come
accepted.
back.
What's that?
We'll just need to come back at some point and recognize that
Amend the
difference.
budget, right? Okay. All right, so can we ask for a vote?
Yep.
All right, all in favor of the motion to accept the offer from the counter offer from the Thompsons, say aye.
Aye.
I,
Unanimous. Thank you, council. All right, let's move on. You know where the Thompsons live? I think I probably told everybody. They live in Bend, Oregon, and Dale Thompson's brother lives just down the street. On 300 East, he has a, I don't know, 2-acre parcel on the east side, and have a white house with black trim, swimming pool in back. That's his brother, Dale's brother. All right, let's move on. All right. So we've covered all of our administrative items. We have no legislative items. So what we have remaining at council reports. Anyone want to volunteer to go first? Brent?
Okay, so, with this COVID-19 stuff, there's been not a whole lot going on, getting together, discuss emergency management. We've been going from orange to green, whatnot, but it's all been handled basically by the state and by the county, and everybody is made aware basically every night on television, on the news, our status and whatever, and heard what's going on. We've had no meetings or anything like that, other than the latest thing has come out. They've encouraged everyone to wear a mask, and you heard what's happening with schools, that they're recommending that kids wear a mask. It's going to be interesting to watch first graders with their masks as they pull them down over their ears and put them over their knees and stomp on the floor and trade with each other and do the things that they do with the mask. But anyway, it is what it is. And I'm going to put on my mask, wear a mask, all lives matter. You know, I'm old, so I'd put on that
Okay.
on my mask. But anyway, that's all I have to report.
Okay, thanks, Brent. Who's next? Carrie?
Okay, as far as mine, fiber, we've talked about, Parks and Rec, we've talked about, the youth council, we've reached out to them for the city celebration to possibly help. They haven't met since March when they were planning the Easter celebration. So we might start doing something with them again if we decide to proceed with the city celebration. So I bring up Christina's assignment because I've been helping on that committee. And I think each council member should have a minute to speak on where they stand with the city celebration.
Okay. You want to discuss that now?
Well, it's up to you, but I think council reports is, I mean, we're almost done with our council meeting and we need to know the temperature of the council about proceeding. Like I said, Christina wants to bring hope but we don't want to continue planning if the rest of the council is like, really, we should probably just cancel it and do it bigger and better next year.
So I'll weigh in, at least how I feel. I'll be super quick. I don't know if anybody commented, but I sure felt a lot of city and Cache Valley pride just with our 4th of July fireworks that we had, you know, throughout the valley. I thought that was one of the coolest experiences I've had since I was here. So I don't feel you know, necessarily a dearth of city spirit. I feel, you know, well filled after the July 4th meeting, and I'd be of the opinion I believe that we should, because of the amount of work that can go into preparing these and then trying to adjust and modify them last minute. I have no issues. I would recommend that we cancel this year's and we call up the same committee members and we work on a good job next year when we don't have a once in 100-year pandemic going on throughout the world. So,
Brent?
I too feel like that we're running an awful risk going through all the effort of planning and putting together already. You know, the breakfast had to be canceled because of our concerns. I just feel that myself, they had a car show similar planned at the fairgrounds that got canceled. I just personally feel that it would be better to not do it this year and go stronger next year.
Okay. Janelle? On the fence?
I'm on the fence. I mean,
I
I
can
do,
tell.
you can tell by my face. Yeah, I do think that things are totally up in the air.
Okay.
I would hate to put all the tons of effort in unless we feel like we have a reasonable plan B. Sorry, car's driving fast. I think we'd have to have a reasonable plan B but you know, who knows?
We'd have to
Between
figure out
now
what
and
plan B
the
would be.
middle of September,
I know, you can't make a
I-
decision a day.
I'm a planner and this is driving me crazy. So,
Yep.
so yeah,
Carrie?
don't even get me on the topic of school. So I'm a planner.
I'm kind of freaking out about it too, just because I can't make any decisions. So what about the option of maybe keeping the concerts and the movie, you know, something like that, and maybe the car show, but not doing vendors or food? I think it loses a lot of its spice without that. It's not as fun. Parades have all been canceled because of throwing things that are potentially contaminated. We want to hold on to hope, but I agree with you. Like, I don't want to plan it and have the rug pulled out. Christina's at the point where we need to start asking for sponsors, and that's why we really, that's when it gets tricky, is when you start asking people for money and then pull out. Part of my thought would be, take half the budget and roll it into next year. And since we're trying to create a new and improved event, make it really spectacular next year. But I don't know, maybe there's portions that we could keep and still socially distance. I think Ryan has some thoughts on this too.
Ryan?
I'll do whatever the council wants. I do like the idea of having hope, but I will do whatever the council wants, and I'm sure that the committee will do as well. To mirror Councilmember Kirk, we don't want to do a lot of planning and have the council not be 100% supportive in having it. I'd rather cancel than have a split council on whether we proceed or not.
Well, and it looks like, there's two that are pretty much, let's hold off. I would call myself on the fence too. It depends on who I'm talking to. But because I want it to be great and I want it to be reinvented, and I feel like it won't be as great as it could be this year.
That's true. It may just be flat and not worth doing. Yeah.
We may be the only game in town, and we might have half the valley show up too.
Which would get us into the news, but for better or for worse, I don't know.
So let me add a few things. My two grandsons, who are 7 and 11, are bored to death. They would love to be back at school. They both go to charter schools for gifted kids. And they're going nuts. So I know Janelle and Carrie both have kids at home, and they're probably driving you nuts. The county has not canceled the fair or the rodeo, and they're sooner than our celebration is. So I'm sure they've gone through this discussion. Kathleen Alder called me. I think Brent, somebody said the pancake breakfast was canceled. Kathleen Alder called me and she said she had talked to Stake President Smith and asked whether the Stakes would put the pancake breakfast on. One of the people that put on the pancake breakfast, and when he was part of the Lions Club, is Brian Cox. I talked to Brian Cox about it, and his recommendation was the same as mine. It should be a service club that puts it on rather than the city, the pancake breakfast. So of course the Lions Club is gone. But so Kathleen said, I'm waiting to hear back from President Smith. So maybe she's heard since then, and they've just said no, I don't know. Have you heard anything, Brent?
At the meeting yesterday online, or with the committee, we talked about the pancake breakfast and just using food vendors, food trucks instead of doing the breakfast, because they are making all of the COVID accommodations. And rather than having amateurs, whether it be us or the Stake or the Lions Club, take on that liability, we would just let food trucks do that. So that was part of the committee discussion yesterday.
The other interesting thing that's going on is state and federal government has put a lot of effort into testing. And the more people that are tested, the more people they discover test positive. When this whole thing started, there were doctors, epidemiologists said eventually everybody's going to get this. But the interesting thing is the percentage of deaths keeps going down as they test more people, even though they discover more cases. So even though the number of cases are going up, It's not the number, it's the percentage of people that are hospitalized, the percentage that actually die from it. And there are some states that are now tracking ones that are verified COVID-19 cause of death, and those that, and they put them in a second category, the state of Colorado, but the second category is that they really didn't know. And the CDC is close to making a decision whether saying this is no longer an epidemic, because of the death numbers, the percentage. And so what some of the doctors have said is the numbers are coming in the same as a bad flu season in terms of the number of deaths and hospitalizations. So all of this may change. But that being said, there's also political pressure to keep things shut down because it's an election year.
I think timing wise, if school opens at the end of August and this is 3 weeks later, if school turns into a infectious spike, our timing is bad. Our timing is bad. And if everybody stays home online because we get shut down in August, people aren't going to be coming out in September. So again, I think the timing is bad.
The state
So I would-
epidemiologist said we ought to shut everything down. The governor overruled and said, we're not shutting things down. We're not going to masks. We're not going backwards. So, and as far as he was concerned, that the schools should reopen, but it would be up to the individual school districts.
I think
So
this.
my concern is we're
probably
turning
enough
this.
To Christina.
Yes, thank you. I was just gonna say, we're turning into what is a national debate on an issue right now over a city celebration here, and nobody's winning the national debate, and I don't know if we're gonna have to happen here. I think we've all expressed our opinions about what we think about the city celebration. Councilman Kirk and Christina, you guys are in charge of it. I guess you can take that feedback and decide what you want to do. Is that fair?
I'm not in charge. Christina is.
Are you on her
Watch
errand,
this
special
and
errand tonight? Okay. But I just don't know if I want to spend the time. It's 8 o'clock on Pacific Coast time. It's 9 o'clock here, Mayor. So I want to make sure we kind of move through the agenda and wrap up the season.
Good, we're done with the agenda.
So that's it for me for council reports, and that's what Christina asked me to ask.
Okay.
And now she can take that and decide.
Okay.
One other thing, Carrie, she asked me to get a float for the council.
Yes. That was
And
talked.
so I'd wait back to hear from her to decide. Say that again.
That was discussed in the meeting yesterday, and Brother Call, what's his first name?
Ralph?
Ralph.
Ralph has been talked to about using his cars potentially. And so Christina said that maybe you could follow up with Ralph unless you had something else, like a manure spreader. I request a clean one
A
for
manure.
us to ride in.
Does Ralph have one of those?
I don't know, but spreading crap.
I thought I would put on the side, this has been a crappy year, COVID-19. Anyway, or, making the grass greener, grow greener in Providence, the city council. Anyway,
But Ralph is willing to use some of his cars for us if that's the direction you want to go, but you would still need to maybe get some signs or decide who's riding where.
And
Work that out if she decides to go forward, or what portion she decides to go forward with.
I also thought Eldon, being a dad age, could use one of his trucks. We could be on it as well if we wanted to. So there's some things we can do. I just need a direction what to do if they're going to go with it.
Okay,
there
you'll
again-
need to make that choice.
Right. Yeah, we need to make that choice, and I need to know. So anyway, let me know.
Awesome.
Janelle?
As far as my council report goes, the library is back open. They keep flip-flops every council report. They're back open, and now school districts are sorting through several things. And we are still meeting with the Spring Creek Water Company. We have a meeting next Tuesday. And that's what we're doing. So
Okay.
making incremental progress.
Brent? Brent,
Yes? I
did
thought
we
I,
get you? Okay, is Josh next?
the only thing I was thinking, Mayor, if we pulled some conduits for
I think we
fiber
need
optics,
conduit
we
up
could
Center
use it
Street going
for,
by Brent's
uh,
house.
secondary water. Yeah, do it for secondary water. Okay.
I'm sorry, say that again?
I'm saying if we pulled the conduits for fiber optics and it didn't work out, we could take and use it for secondary water.
Yeah, it'd be a high pressure hose, wouldn't it?
That would, yes.
Hey, something I mentioned yesterday, I just remembered. The city of Melville, as everybody knows, has had to do two things. One is cease using septic tank system, so they're going to have to put in a sewer system, so they've had to bond. And I think they threw out a price tag, there's an estimate, $15 million. But they also, we're going to have to find another source of water, which I think they found. But in the midst of all of this, they have to dig up many of their streets in the city of Millville. And when they do so, they're going to put conduit for fiber drop down in every ditch and significantly save their cost of fiber infrastructure in the city of Millville. So what would probably way this would play out is if fiber is something that Providence adopts, we would likely have some of our sister cities strongly interested as well. And one of the first of them might be Millville. And they may want to jump on this to keep their costs down as well. Okay, Josh?
Yeah, like Brent, at least most of my assignments, I said this last month that, they're not having meetings other than some virtual ones. I haven't been able to keep up, at least this last month, on what's happening on the legislative front. So I'm going to have to go ahead and see what's been going on with special sessions and things like that relating to economics. I will comment on just two other things, just things that I hear from the citizens, back to the staff, in case the staff wants to relay some of these things or do whatever they do. I'm still hearing from residents about, even though we're after educational efforts, minors operating ATVs unattended, I should mind you, because I think minors under certain situations supervised can, up Canyon Road and some of those. So I think from their observations, there continues to be an enforcement issue there. So I don't know. That's not my job to be enforcement, but someone on the city or staff or council may want to take that feedback back. The other thing, maybe something planning and zoning wants to consider. I call them the mega sheds that have popped up in a few different places in Providence. They're kind of interesting. They're large structures that are significantly larger than the primary structures, but have much smaller setbacks than the other ones do. We had one pop up down the street from here that was very industrial, looks quite different than the building structure. I know there's been one down on Center Street. I'm just wondering if when we're dealing with large sheds, if they're so large that they eclipse the primary structures, if they, if these short setbacks that they have, 5 feet or whatever, are appropriate. And I do know, at least with our ADU ordinance, we're requiring those second ADUs to have somewhat similar design structures as the primary dwelling or the primary structure. I'm assuming for aesthetic reasons, and this one, at least I'm speaking of, popped up with metal beams and an aluminum roof, and those types of things. So something planning and zoning may just want to look at. I've heard from a few residents, and it could potentially kind of become a problem. So that just some feedback for them. If planning and zoning maybe wants to look at some of these, I'm happy to send you a map of at least the ones that I've heard about or seen pop up in the city. So
I would love that to be looked at by planning and zoning too. I've noticed, I'm sure the same one, and think, whoa, is this really something they could do?
It's crazy.
Crazy.
One that we're referring to. Yeah.
Where is it, Josh?
Right off of 450 10th South here in Millville. I don't think it's probably the same height standard, but it's got to be twice as big as the primary dwelling. It looks like it sits just a few feet off the property line. I'm assuming they got a building permit. It's allowed, but
And
I
I'm
just think we need to
assuming
look
they
at it.
got a
So,
second lot in that neighborhood to build it on.
could be. I don't know, but
But it's
it's
that brand new neighborhood and
Yeah.
it's something else.
You said south of 10 South, Josh?
no, excuse me. It's north side of 10th South.
On 400 East?
Yeah, no, it's up from 400. It's up from 800, right, Carrie? I mean, it's
Yeah, head up the hill to your old house, just there on the north
oh,
side.
drive up here. You can't miss it. It's exciting
You'll
looking.
see it.
Go up 4th East?
Yeah.
Okay.
No, go up 10th. Just drive at the top. You'll just see it on the north side of the road.
You can go up the hill.
Go up the hill. Yeah.
Okay. Got it.
But I also have heard of other one. I know there was one down on, I think there was one down on Center and something else. I just think we need to take a look at it. People can obviously build what they want, but I'm thinking we may need to look at the design standards or the setbacks for some of these. What I refer to as mega sheds. They're enormous. They look like industrial buildings.
Okay. Thanks, Josh.
That's it.
All right, to Josh's raised the point about ATVs. I've had a couple conversations with Deputy Carley, who's our star deputy. He said he'd be getting his guys on it. They send out what they call the motors. At the end of June, motorcycles are out. They work in teams sometimes. I also sent him, I got a phone call from someone on 100 East who's just around the corner from Canyon Road. He complained, and I gave Deputy Carley his address and asked him to stop by and have a chat with that neighbor so he could get some more specifics. So that's what that's our. We have complaints every year. We put something in the newsletter every year about it. We put the city code in this year. When we lived on 10th South in Grandview, I mean, we'd see kids, 3 girls on an ATV built for 1 person with tank tops and flip-flops, careening down 10th South and making the turn onto Grandview, and it'd drive my wife nuts. She'd just cover her eyes. She'd go out there sometimes and they were so loud, she would put her hands over her ears and stand in the driveway so the people would get the message.
Well, and the problem is that they're probably 13-year-olds. I was up Providence Canyon a couple of weeks ago, and I think every other side-by-side that passed was driven by a
Yep.
13-year-old going 80 miles an hour.
Yep. So you go up the canyon, and once you get in the mouth of the canyon, that's state property. And then once you get past the big parking lot up there, there's a sign. Once you get there, that's federal land, that's national forest. So, but
So are the laws different?
the deputies do go up there, but they're usually looking. I mean, there's one deputy that goes up there every night after it gets dark, because kids go up there and do all kinds of stupid stuff.
Yeah, well, she needs to go up there before dark and look at the kids driving those ATVs and the side-by-sides especially. And they're basically cars.
Yep.
And they're going so fast.
Yep. Okay. Ryan, anything else? Scarlett? We have no reason to go into executive, so we're at the end of our agenda. Okay, I think we're done. Can I have a motion?
I move. I make the motion. that
Second.
we Close our meeting.
Second.
Motion from Councilwoman Kirk. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Second from Councilwoman Seeley. All in favor?
Aye.
I,
Unanimous.
Have a good night. Stay safe.
Thank
I'll
you
give you
all.
the sunset if you want it.
Have a
yeah,
good
You
show
evening.
can
us.
see it.
Oh, it's a little bright.
A little bright.
We're just waiting for you to invite us over for the party.
Mayor, hope your shingles feel
Come
better.
put your
Trouble